The life of a ninja beginning in the Hidden Mist Village. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 501 Snowdrifting. On the ground, Archer Hirobito frowned as he looked at the tiny figure in the sky. Finally, you've used your ultimate move. But, this move looks a little too strong. Although he couldn't sense natural energy, and couldn't tell what move the other party was going to use with his Sharingan, just ordinary visual senses were enough to make him feel terrified, and his back went cold. With Nanoshin as the center, the mist of nearly 10,000 meters in radius began to gather rapidly, and even the clouds in the sky seemed to be pulled by an invisible force, becoming thicker and darker. In the end, even the midday sun was blocked by the clouds, and no light could be seen. The sky of the Hidden Mist Village was dark. With one move, even the sky changed. It's really scary, Obito said casually, but his palm was already wet, and he silently activated the virtualization ability of his right eye. On the floating ice, the people who tightened their defense line noticed the sudden change in the sky and were terrified. Fortunately, Maingetsu Kizuna was there to preside over the situation, so everyone didn't run away. On the other side, the Hoshigaki troops, who were rapidly approaching the floating ice area, also noticed the sudden change in the sky. Why did the sky suddenly turn dark? Someone couldn't help but stop and asked in horror, pointing to the sky. I don't know. Is it a storm? A companion next to him replied unconfidently. The land of water is surrounded by the sea and consists of many islands, so storms often come. However, many ninjas living in Kirigakure are very familiar with the weather here, and there are no signs of a storm recently. Moreover, the clouds suddenly gathered, but there was no wind. This is really strange. How can clouds gather without wind? Seeing that the troops gradually stopped, Kiichi Hoshigaki shouted angrily from behind. What's so good about a storm? Go full speed ahead. Hearing this, everyone started again. It was just because it was very dark and the visibility was less than 5 meters, so everyone couldn't help but slow down. At the same time, a perceptive ninja found the young patriarch of the Hoshigaki family. Master Kiichi, there seems to be someone in the sky. This sudden change in the sky is likely man-made. The perception ninja hurriedly reported. Man-made? Hoshigaki Kiichi was a little surprised and hurriedly asked, who is it? The perception ninja solemnly said, it seems to be the ice ninja of Terumi's family, Nanashiro. In addition, I also found that the young patriarch of Terumi's family, Terumi Mei, is also in the sky. Hearing these two names, Hoshigaki Kiichi couldn't help but jump. Oh no, they are about to launch a large-scale ninjutsu attack. Realizing that something was wrong, he screamed and hurriedly issued an order. Stop moving forward. Everyone prepare to defend against the attack in the sky. The man who could subdue the tailed beast by himself put too much pressure on him. If it was someone else, he would not be so worried, but that person was Nanashiro. Everything is possible. The order was conveyed quickly, and Hoshigaki's ninja troops stopped immediately. Everyone was nervously preparing fortifications or defensive techniques. Suddenly, it seemed that something fell from the sky. Someone opened his palm to catch it, and found that it was a bunch of tiny ice crystals. It's snowing, he said subconsciously. Then, the mist ninja on the ground found that the snowflakes were getting bigger and bigger. In just a few breaths, the sporadic snow turned into heavy snow. The snow was falling very fast. In the blink of an eye, the ground became a vast expanse of white, and the snow had already reached the ankles. The whole mist village seemed to be covered by a large white blanket. Could it be that he wants to learn from our water flooding mist village and also create a snow-buried mist village? Looking at the fluttering snow, Kiichi Hoshigaki couldn't help but have a strange thought. In addition to the snow, the other most intuitive feeling of the crowd was cold. The temperature dropped too low. It's not that they haven't seen snow before, but they have never seen a snowy day as cold as this one. Even with the extraordinary physique of the ninja, they couldn't help but shiver from the cold. It was too cold, so cold that everyone wanted to go home and get into bed. In the distance, Obito, who was enveloped by the power of Kamu, quietly watched the snowflakes passing through his body, wondering, why is there no sound at all? On the originally noisy battlefield, not only the sound of the charge was gone, the sound of footsteps was gone, and even the sound of insects was gone. The entire Kirigakure village was like dead, without any sound. It was so quiet that it was terrifying. He quickly approached the troops of Hashigake's faction, and then took a closer look, and found that everyone had stopped moving, like a frozen film, standing quietly in place, motionless. He was surprised. He couldn't help but recall the experience of being ambushed by Nanashimo for the first time in the different space. If it weren't for the protection of I's energy, he would have died. Could this be the reason why I was ambushed without noticing? Obito couldn't help but come up with the answer. At the same time, Shianksin Shenji, who was floating in the sky and saw the snow, couldn't help but think of the prophecy of the great Toad Sage. It seems that this guy is the one. On the other side, Qishuang's blue face disappeared, and even the double horns on his head disappeared. He gasped for breath, turned back to Miming and said, "Let's do it." This fairy technique is based on the transformation of momentary beauty, with the amplification effect of the fairy technique exceeding 100 times, and connecting the natural energy around, gathering the water mist and cloud mist of nearly 10,000 meters in radius. It has such a large coverage area, covering the entire mist village. If it weren't for the natural energy, even if his water escape could control part of the water vapor and cloud, it would never be able to mobilize the clouds and water mist of nearly 10,000 meters in radius. There is no such a huge amount of chakra to create heavy snow covering the entire mist village out of thin air. Harnessing the power of nature, this is a fairy. This is also the reason why Qishuang dared to negotiate with Maingetsu Kizuna in advance, and had the confidence to end the war on his own. In this misty mist village, no matter how many opponents there are, it is meaningless to him. He could stop the entire Kirigakure at this moment. And within this moment, all enemies would be sent to the western paradise. A snowfall is enough to bury everything. But once this move is used, it is destined to be a one-sided massacre. He didn't want to use such a move, unless it was absolutely necessary, but now, he has no choice. At the same time, after receiving his reminder, Terumi Medi solemnly replied, "Stay away from me, your real body. I'm afraid of hurting you by mistake." Nana Frost nodded, and immediately floated back panting, and hinted that the clone took Medi to approach the troops of Hashigake's line. Seeing that the ninja troops of Hashigake's line were getting closer and closer, Terumi Medi's eyes, which were originally a little reluctant, gradually became cold. Facing her attack, these Kirigakure ninjas who were fixed by Nana Frost were no different from waiting to die. It was simply a one-sided massacre. Even after experiencing the baptism of war, she was asked to slaughter so many people who were unable to resist at one time, and they were still Kirigakure's compatriots. After all, she felt a little reluctant. However, facing her Shigeki who came with a great victory, Terumi's side had no ability to resist at all. If she didn't defeat them now, Terumi would suffer the same tragic fate as Azuki. She had no choice but to defeat her Shigeki and end the war. Then, she slowly completed the last hand seal. Eclipse release. Dragon Eclipse Earth. Chapter 502 Mist Dragon. I saw wisps of grey-white mist seeping out of Terumi's body. The ice clone that embraced her turned into ashes the moment it came into contact with the grey-white mist, leaving no trace. That's Eclipse. Qishuang couldn't help but shrink his pupils when he saw it. Medi did not follow his instructions to use the boiling escape, but use the bloodline elimination that was still under development, Eclipse. Because the ice clone was dissolved by the eclipse mist and lost the clone's care, Terumi fell from the sky. Be careful. Qishuang screamed and instinctively chased after him. Don't come over. I can do it. Terumi, who was falling rapidly, hurriedly stopped him. Hearing this, Qishuang immediately stopped in midair. Then, more and more grey-white mist seeped out of Medi's body, entangled and changed on her body surface, and finally wrapped her whole body in it, turning into a nearly 100-meter long, grey-white mist dragon. Or maybe the power of Eclipse was not familiar enough and difficult to control. The back half of the Dragon of Mist was not as agile as the front half, and it seemed a little frivolous, as if it would get out of control and completely disintegrate at any time. How could he know that Meditarumi was worried that the acid mist of boiling escape was not lethal enough, so she decided to use the immature eclipse. Boiling escape has a strong diffusion ability and can cause large-scale killing effects, but the concentration of acid mist will also be greatly reduced, making it difficult to severely damage Hashigake's main force. And their goal is to completely defeat Hashigake's clan after this attack, so that they will no longer have the ability to compete for hegemony and completely give up. If they insist on using boiling escape with insufficient lethality, the final goal will not be achieved. When the time limit of the fairy technique is over, they will definitely be counter-attacked by Hashigake's clan. In addition, Nanashiro's chakra is almost exhausted, and she can no longer create a second opportunity for her, so she must ensure that the first attack is successful and leave no chance for Hashigake's clan. Eclipse became her final choice. At the moment, when the mist dragon was completely formed, it swung its long tail, paddled its four claws, glided through the sky, and immediately rushed into the formation of Hashigake's ninja troops on the ground. Whoosh! Wherever the mist dragon passed, whether it was ruins, broken walls, kune, or ninjas, the moment they were touched by the grey mist emitted by the mist dragon, it was like rocks that had experienced thousands of years of wind and frost, turning into flying ashes and floating in the air. What? Abato, who was still observing the situation in the Hashigaki formation, was frightened by the scene of the mist dragon's crushing. This move is too dangerous. I'm afraid it's almost as good as the old Gyanoki's dust release. He shook his head and sighed. The Hashigaki clan is doomed. He looked at Hashigaki Kiichi not far away with pity and thought to himself, the show is over. There is no point in staying here. Let's leave this dangerous place first. It's a pity that the Vulpix was not obtained. It will be difficult to obtain it in the future. Looking at the ruthless fog dragon, he sighed helplessly, opened a vortex in front of him, and immediately sucked himself in. Meditarumi manipulated the fog dragon to whiz by, but she was still a step slower. Or rather, she didn't have that chance at all. With the dynamic vision ability of the Sharingan, Obito can accurately judge the time and know whether he can absorb himself into the different space before the fog dragon arrives. If not, he will never remove the ability of hollowing and use the different space to absorb himself. Because when absorbing himself, he will also reveal the flaws of the entity, and absorption and hollowing cannot be used at the same time. It was through dynamic vision that he could judge that he could suck himself into the different space before the arrival of the fog dragon, that he dared to dance on the tip of the knife. Because he knew clearly that there would be no danger at all. This is also a common problem of all Uchiha ninjas. Relying on the dynamic vision ability of the Sharingan, they always like to time and seize the opportunity to do something incredible. Although the attack on Uchiha Obito was fruitless, Terumi Mei did not give up the offensive. Because her target was the main force of the Hashigaki clan, the fog dragon swept across the battlefield quickly. In less than 30 seconds, the nearly 3,000-man fog ninja army shrank by more than half, and it was estimated that only a little more than 1,000 were left. The lethality of the eclipse release far exceeded her expectations. Just a light touch was enough to kill people. It was really terrible. Looking at the few remaining ninjas, Terumi Mei hiding in the fog dragon couldn't help thinking, is this enough? Today, the ninjas in the Hidden Mist village have suffered heavy casualties. The nearly 3,000 fog ninjas of the Hashigaki clan are almost 70% of the entire Hidden Mist village. If they were all killed, Kirigakure would be left with no one available. Thinking of this, she controlled the mist dragon to stop, and her tense nerves slowly began to relax. At this moment, an indescribable tingling sensation surged up from her limbs to her scalp. Ugh, she groaned, and a trickle of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Noticing that the mist dragon was gradually losing control, she endured the severe pain and lifted the spell. Release. In the sky, seeing the mist dragon on the ground suddenly stop moving, and then abnormalities appeared. With a faint loss of control, Qishuang felt something was wrong and rushed down immediately. Then, he saw the mist dragon dissipate, and Terumi Mei fell to the ground with a painful look on her face. Fortunately, the mist dragon stopped on the ground, and the height difference was not very large, so it should not hurt her. Ming, what's wrong with you? Qishuang rushed to her and hurriedly helped her up, asking anxiously. I don't know. I just feel like my meridians are being burned by a branding iron. The pain is unbearable. Terumi Mei replied with a pale face, her whole body trembling, and beads of sweat the size of soybeans rolling down her forehead. It is hard to imagine what kind of pain she has endured. Let's go, I'll take you back now. Qishuang picked her up by the waist and was about to leave. Wait. Terumi Mei hurriedly stopped him and pointed at a young shark-faced man not far away with a trembling finger and said, "That's Kiichi Hashigaki, the young patriarch of the Hashigaki family. Take him back to over there, and Masamune Hazumi over there." As she said that, she pointed to another Hazumi ninja lying in a puddle. At present, most of the troops of the Hashigaki clan have been destroyed, and they have almost no strength to fight again. If they take this opportunity to capture Kiichi Hashigaki, they will definitely force the Hashigaki clan to surrender completely. As for Masamune Kizuna, although Kizuna's faction was completely defeated, there must be some ninjas who escaped. With Masamune Kizuna and Maingetsu Kizuna, they can definitely gather them together again. Bringing him back can also do Maingetsu Kizuna a favor and clear the obstacles for rebuilding Kizuna later. Kizuna's civil war is basically over here. Chapter 503 Captive. Hearing this, Nanashin nodded, holding her, and quickly came to Kiichi Hashigaki's side. After gently putting her down, he took off Sumehada from his back and placed it directly on the young shark-faced man. "Sumehada, absorb it." He gave the order to the big knife in his hand, and a warm energy was immediately transmitted into his palm along the handle. It was the chakra absorbed and transformed by Sumehada. After a series of battles, even he was a little exhausted. The last paradise almost drained all his strength. If he didn't replenish his chakra now, it would be a difficult problem to leave with Ming. Fortunately, he collected Kisame Sumehada and brought it with him. Otherwise, he really couldn't replenish his chakra loss in a short time. As chakra was continuously injected into his body, his fatigue was also dissipated a lot, and a feeling of fullness of power surged into his heart again. It was like an oasis was born in the desert, giving off new vitality. 1 minute and a second is not a long time, but it is definitely not a short time. The time limit of Elysium has expired. Sumehada? Kiichi Hashigaki, who had just regained consciousness, saw the strange sword on his body, which was grinning and extracting chakra. "Hashigaki Kisame, who are you?" He subconsciously wanted to curse, but found that the person holding the handle of the other end of the sword was not Hashigaki Kisame, but a young man he had never seen before, but felt a little familiar. Next to her, there was a woman in a blue skirt with a painful face. He recognized at a glance that it was the current head of the Terumi family, Medi Terumi. Is the time limit of the fairy technique expired? Nanashiro ignored him and just frowned slightly. As the fairy technique became ineffective, the remaining Hashigaki ninja troops on the snow also regained their vitality. What happened just now? Why is the sky bright again? Someone looked at the sky in horror and shouted. The sky that was originally covered with dark clouds and a dark sky no longer existed. Instead, there was a clear and clean blue sky, without the haziness of the fog in the past. He dared to swear that he had never seen such a clear sky in Kirigakure in his life. Hey, it's true. How could this be? Everyone was talking about it, surprised. How could they know that Qishuang had drained all the water mist over Kirigakure at once, and the surrounding mist had not yet filled the gap, which allowed them to see the clear blue sky? However, more ninjas discovered another terrifying thing. More than half of their companions disappeared inexplicably. There were no corpses, no bloodstains, and only strange huge gullies were left in the original place, as if a giant beast had gnawed on the ground, leaving deep tooth marks. There are ghosts. Some people were directly scared and collapsed. More than 1,000 people just suddenly disappeared in front of them, but they didn't notice it at all. It was too scary and weird. What ghost is there? They must have transferred, or they are playing hide and seek with us. Someone bravely shouted loudly, but was met with countless white eyes. Even if it was a transfer and hide and seek, it wouldn't be so unnoticed. That's more than 1,000 people, nearly 2,000. At the same time, Kiichi Hashigaki, who sensed something was wrong, retreated hastily and shouted for help. "Someone, there's an assassin." Hearing his sudden shout, the people who were attracted by the strange phenomena around them realized that there were two inappropriate figures beside the young patriarch. One of them was holding Hoshigaki Kisame Samehuda in his hand. Not good. Master Kiichi is in danger. The ninjas no longer cared to investigate the strange phenomena around them, and immediately surrounded them. Want to leave? Can you leave? Nanashiro snorted coldly, grabbed the handle of the knife in his hand, and swung it hard, and immediately saw the handle of Samehuda's knife suddenly become longer, and the huge blade flew out with a mouthful of sharp teeth. Kiichi Hoshigaki saw it, and squatted down in a hurry, and Samehuda flew over his head, and he narrowly avoided the attack. When he looked up again, he found that the man and woman opposite him had disappeared. Then, a cold voice came from behind. Don't waste your energy. You can't escape from my grasp. Master Kiichi, be careful, he's behind you. The Miss Ninja who was rushing over shouted. Unfortunately, it was too late. After throwing out Samehuda, Nanashiro used the huge blade to cover, and instantly came behind Kiichi Hoshigaki. Ice release. Ice sealing technique. The cold air emanated from his body, and before Kiichi Hoshigaki could dodge, he was instantly frozen into an ice sculpture. Ice release. Ice clone technique. Then, Nanashiro controlled the changes in the cold air, and condensed an ice clone beside him. Although the chakra absorbed from Kiichi Hoshigaki was not too much, and it was far from fully recovered, it at least restored nearly 1/3 of his chakra, and he no longer needed to worry about the consumption of ninjutsu. Please, buddy. Nanashiro solemnly instructed the clone. No problem, leave them to me. The clone glanced at Kiichi Hoshigaki and Masamune Hazumi not far away, his face full of confidence. As if afraid of accidentally hurting their young clan leader, the Mist Ninja of the Hoshigaki clan did not launch a long-range attack. After seeing the young clan leader was frozen, they stopped moving forward, not daring to take a single step, for fear of stimulating him to hurt Kiichi Hoshigaki. They just surrounded the area so tightly that even a fly couldn't fly out. Let our young clan leader go. Otherwise, none of you can leave. Everyone roared in unison, but they were timid. Ignoring the timid Hoshigaki clan ninja, Nanashiro put Samehuda back on his back, picked up the weak Terumi Mei by the waist again, and instantly bounced into the sky. It's the ice escape ninja Nanashiro. It was only then that someone finally recognized his identity. What? It's him. Everyone was shocked. After combining the characteristics of ice escape and flying, everyone also confirmed Nanashiro's identity. They surrounded the dangerous man who could subdue the tail beasts by himself. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but step back a few steps, loosening the encirclement a lot. It was almost impossible for them to snatch people from the other side. Seeing this, the Seven Frost clone couldn't help but shake his head. Neither fighting nor retreating. What a bunch of rubbish. Everyone was ashamed and angry, but speechless. Then, he used chakra to absorb the frozen Hoshigaki Kiichi in his hand, and took him to the side of the paralyzed Hazumi Masamune who was sitting on the ground. Although he had escaped from the restraints of the water prison technique, Hazumi Masamune still had no intention of running away, because he knew that facing the ninja troops of Hoshigaki, he had no way to escape. What's more, Hoshigaki Kiichi deliberately arranged several lightning ninjas to watch him. At the moment, it was only because of the sudden appearance of Seven Frost that Hoshigaki's ninja troops were in chaos that no one dared to come up to deal with them. Struggling, meaningless. You should come with me too, Hazuki Masamune. The Qishuang clone said coldly, and then the cold air seeped out of his palm, freezing it into an ice sculpture. Then, under the fearful gazes of the Mist Ninjas of Hoshigaki's clan, he lifted two human-shaped ice sculptures into the sky, one in each hand. It seems that this farce in the hidden mist village should be over. I should go back too. With a burst of white smoke, Shinzin Shenji quietly disappeared in the sky. The end. Chapter 504 Injury, Part 1. What should we do? A ninja leader asked his companion. Stop the attack temporarily, and send someone back to ask those old guys what they are going to do. The companion sighed helplessly. In addition to worrying about the safety of the young clan leader, he was more concerned about the shrinking of the ninja army. More than half of the nearly 3,000 troops disappeared in the blink of an eye. With the remaining manpower, it is not enough to defeat the Terumi clan. A rash attack will only lead to the destruction of both sides. I believe that the command of the Hoshigaki clan will not launch an attack. Soon they received the command from the headquarters to wait and see and wait for rest. On the other side, Nanashiro took Terumi Mei directly across the center of the battlefield and returned to the Terumi base. At this time, there were many more corpses outside the Terumi base. The waters dissipated, and the remaining Terumi ninjas easily killed the Hoshigaki ninjas who came to harass them. However, before that, many of them also died at the hands of the other side. However, compared with the current Azuki and Hoshigaki factions, the loss of Terumi's faction is undoubtedly the smallest. They have become the strongest force in Kirigakure. Medical ninja, call the medical ninja over quickly. As soon as she landed, Nanashi shouted loudly to the surroundings. The Terumi guards, who originally thought it was an enemy attack, immediately lowered their guard after discovering that the person coming was the famous Nanashi. At this moment, no one in Terumi's faction did not know this terrifying strong man. What do you want, sir? Two guards walked up. Hurry up and call your best medical ninja. After finding a flat place and gently putting the beauty in his arms down, Nanashi roared anxiously again. Meet Master Terumi Mei. Noticing that the person he put down in his arms was the young clan leader, the two immediately saluted. But after finding that the young clan leader looked strange, the two panicked and shouted to their companions nearby, call the medical ninja. Lady Terumi Mei is injured. Originally, the attendant who was about to help Qishuang find a medical ninja, after hearing the second half of the two guards' words, he immediately ran away. Lady Terumi Mei is injured. This is a big deal. In less than half a minute, a mist ninja rushed over with a white coat covered in blood. It seems that they probably captured a man temporarily and abducted him by force. Get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. Seeing the medical ninja arrive, Qishuang hurriedly pushed away several guards who were blocking the way and pulled the white coat to Terumi Mei. Hurry up and take a look. What's wrong with Mei? She said that her meridians felt like they were burned by a fire. He immediately reported the problem of Mei. Seeing that the patient was the young clan leader, the medical ninja, who was originally angry because he was abducted, suddenly lost his temper. Not daring to be negligent, he quickly wiped the blood off his hands and then let the chakra flow out of his palm, penetrated into the body of the young clan leader, and began to check. How is the situation? Qishuang asked anxiously. The young clan leader's meridians are full of scars, like a tree trunk infested with insects, and the injuries are very serious. The white coat replied solemnly while checking. Can it be cured? Qishuang asked again. This is a question he cares about most. At the same time, the guards around also pricked up their ears, waiting for the answer of the medical ninja. Although Mei Terumi has not been in charge of the Terumi family for a long time, they all like this courageous young clan leader and don't want her to have any accidents. I'll try first. The white coat did not answer directly, but gathered the chakra in the palm of his hand with a solemn face and began to try to treat. Palm immortal technique. The unique light green glove the medical ninjutsu lit up, and Mei Terumi immediately felt a gentle force penetrate into her meridians, and the painful burning sensation was immediately relieved a lot. 1 minute, 2 minutes. All the senior executives of the Terumi family who got the news also rushed over. As time passed, Qishuang noticed that the white coat's face became more and more ugly, and beads of sweat as big as soybeans rolled down his cheeks. 5 minutes later, the white coat stopped the treatment and put away the chakra with a dejected look. I'm sorry, Master Terumi Mei, I'm incompetent and can't treat your injuries. The white coat knelt on the ground with red eyes, and there was a hint of sob in his tone. Hearing this, Qishuang, who was furious, picked him up and shouted, what's going on? After the roar, everyone was silent, and several senior executives who wanted to ask questions also silently closed their mouths. It was fine when they didn't know before, but now, after knowing that the man has terrifying strength, no one dared to touch his eyebrows. Put him down, Qishuang. Cough cough cough. Terumi Mei struggled to sit up. Her face was much better than before, but still extremely pale. Hearing this familiar voice, Qishuang's heart became much clearer. She immediately put down the white coat in her hand and turned back to ask, Ming, how do you feel now? Terumi Mei forced a smile and replied, I feel much better. But why do you say you can't cure my injury? As she said that, she looked at the medical ninja who had just gotten up from the ground in surprise. Everyone also cast puzzled eyes. Obviously, the young clan leader said that it was effective, but this medical ninja said that it couldn't be cured. It was really strange. The white coat wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and secretly glanced at Qishuang, who was still angry and hesitated to speak. Seeing that he was hesitant, Terumi Mei smiled helplessly and whispered, "You don't have to worry about him. With me here, he dare not do anything to you. If you have anything to say, just say it." After getting the verbal assurance from the young clan leader, the white coat breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want to be remembered by this Lord Qishuang. Wait. Just as he was about to speak, the man who made him so afraid spoke again. Within 10 meters, no outsiders are allowed to approach. If anyone disobeys the order, they will be killed without mercy. Qishuang said coldly to everyone. Not daring to look directly at his murderous eyes, everyone retreated one after another, leaving only the white coats and several senior executives on the scene. "You guys also step aside," Qishuang said to several senior executives. One person said dissatisfiedly, "Do you know who we are?" "We are." Seeing that Qishuang's eyes were getting colder and colder, his companions beside him hurriedly stopped him. At the moment, he was angry and had terrifying strength. Once he started killing, they would all die. One person next to him was a little smarter and hurriedly looked to the young patriarch for help. Only the young patriarch could restrain this terrifying guy. When Terumi saw this, she understood what he meant and immediately said to Qishuang, "They are all the core figures of my Terumi faction. There is no need to treat them like this." Qishuang shook his head, still staring at them, and said firmly, "Either leave by yourself, or I will send you away personally." As he spoke, a wisp of cold air floated out from his palm. Chapter 505 Injury, Part 2. Seeing his firm attitude, Terumi was at a loss. Because she knew clearly that once Qishuang got serious, her words would not work at all. Helplessly, she could only wink at several senior officials. Seeing that the young clan leader could not do anything, they were even more helpless and could only turn around and leave with resentment. "Now, you can speak." Qishuang did not signal to the medical ninja until the few people walked away. Alas. The white coat sighed and looked at Terumi and said, "My lord, there is an extremely strong force in your meridians, and it is that force that caused the damage to the meridians. Every time I use medical ninjutsu to start healing your meridian damage, that powerful force will erode my chakra and hinder the healing process of medical ninjutsu. Then, I began to try to dispel that force and then try to heal it. Unfortunately, that force is too strong, far beyond my ability, and I can't expel it at all." As he said that, he lowered his head with a guilty look on his face. Extremely strong power. Qishuang looked at the blue skirt beauty in surprise, as if he had thought of something. Terumi was also thoughtful. She slowly spread her palm and said to the medical ninja, "Is this the kind of power you are talking about?" As she spoke, she gathered the chakra in her palm and transformed it into the nature of erosion. A wisp of grey-white mist appeared in her palm. That is. The white coat widened his eyes and oozed the chakra out of his fingers, turning it into a chakra probe, and stabbed it at the grey-white mist. The grey-white mist gave him a feeling very similar to the power in the meridians of the young clan leader, but it was countless times stronger, so strong that it was unbelievable. Zizzy. The moment the chakra probe came into contact with the grey-white mist, it turned into nothingness under the action of a powerful force. Yes, yes, yes. That's it. The white coat nodded repeatedly. It was this power that annihilated his chakra, rendering the medical ninjutsu ineffective. "Excuse me, sir, what exactly is this? I have never seen such a chakra change." The white coat asked again hurriedly. The power brought by that chakra change was so terrifying that it seemed to be able to annihilate everything. Looking at the grey mist in her hand, Terumi said slowly, "This is Eclipse Release, a bloodline elimination that I just mastered recently." Bloodline elimination? Recently mastered? The white coat was a little surprised. Terumi did not publicize the fact that she had mastered the bloodline elimination, and since she had only mastered it recently, no one below knew about it except for a few senior executives. After a long while, the white coat shook his head and sighed. "So that's how it is. No wonder, no wonder." What's going on? Qishuang had a vague answer in his heart, but he still hoped to hear a more professional and specific explanation. Alas. The man in the white coat shook his head and said slowly, after the human body's chakra has undergone a transformation, it can exert various unique attribute powers. When it has not undergone a transformation, it behaves mediocrely and looks like it has no attributes, but in fact it is not completely without attributes. It's just that the change in properties is not obvious, and the attribute characteristics are very weak. When we use chakra test paper to test, we will find that even a ninja who has not learned to change properties will have a certain attribute bias in his chakra. It's just that these attribute biases are innate to the human body, and our bodies have adapted to these powers from the beginning. Unless the power is out of control, it is difficult for them to hurt themselves. But Lady Terumi Mei's eclipse escape is a recent practice. It is a power you have never possessed, and your body has not yet fully adapted. Even you, the Lord, have not fully mastered its power. As he said that, he sighed again and continued, the power of bloodline elimination is far superior to ordinary escape techniques and blood limit. While it brings powerful power, it also brings you huge hidden dangers. Originally, if you only used a small amount, there shouldn't be too many problems, but your meridians are so damaged, you must have converted a lot of chakra into eclipse today, right? Hearing this, Terumi Mei nodded and whispered, today is the first time I have used the power of eclipse in large quantities. That's right. The white coat sighed. Originally, if you had spent some more time to let your body slowly adapt to this new chakra change and fully control it, such an accident would never have happened. But you rashly converted a large amount of chakra into eclipse and used this power, which greatly enhanced the eclipse attribute in your body, which was not outstanding to begin with. In addition, its power is too strong, and the power of boiling escape, dissolving escape and other powers in your body is not enough to balance and suppress it. Your body has not fully adapted, which causes this blood elimination to begin to erode your meridians. It caused the damage to your meridians today. After listening to his story, Qishuang said, according to you, as long as the influence of eclipse is eliminated, you can use medical ninjutsu to heal Mei's meridians? The white coat nodded and said seriously, that's the theory. But eclipse is a bloodline elimination, and it contains extremely strong changes in properties. Ordinary power cannot eliminate its influence at all. I can only temporarily relieve your pain, but I can't cure it completely. Right now, your meridians are severely damaged. If it is not necessary, you must never fight with others. Especially eclipse, you must never use it again. Hearing the medical ninja's advice, Lady Terumi asked solemnly, what will happen if I use eclipse again? The man in the white coat bit his lip and said worriedly, the meridians of the human body are extremely fragile. If they are severely damaged again, it is very likely to cause irreparable damage. From then on, you will never be able to use ninjutsu again and become a cripple. Even now, because of the eclipse, your meridian injuries have been in the process of worsening. If you can't find a way to treat it as soon as possible, your meridians will also be completely destroyed. I'm incompetent. After that, he fell to his knees with a plop, his tone very sad. If it can't be cured, forget it. You don't have to blame yourself. Lady Terumi waved her hands and showed a relieved smile. But, before the man in the white coat finished speaking, he was interrupted by Qishuang. Don't say buts. According to your estimation, how long can Ming's meridians last? He asked very calmly. The man in the white coat thought for a moment and replied seriously, if the Lord calms down and recuperates and no longer fights with others, coupled with my medication, he should be able to hold on for another 4 or 5 years. Who? Qishuang and Lady Terumi both breathed a sigh of relief. They thought that the treatment of the meridians was imminent and would be destroyed by the eclipse escape in a short time, but it turned out that it was not what they thought at all. You scared me. Qishuang immediately gave the medical ninja a slap on the face and said, it's okay for the time being, you still told us so mysteriously. Hehe. Lady Terumi also put down the big stone in her heart and chuckled with her hands covering her mouth. There is still a lot of time, and it is entirely possible that she can find a way to treat her injuries. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 506 Dirty Water. The man in the white coat covered his head and said aggrievedly, because of the continuous damage of Eclipse, Lady Terumi Mena's injury will only get worse. But to treat Lady Terumi Mena's injury, we must solve the problem caused by Eclipse. And with our Kirigakure's medical capabilities, no, even the entire ninja world can't find a medical ninjutsu that can resist Eclipse. There is no doubt that the bloodline is powerful, and it is almost impossible to find a medical ninjutsu that can resist the interference of Eclipse. Nanashiro thought for a while and said slowly, according to what you said, Mena's body will slowly adapt to the power of Eclipse over time, and correspondingly, the damage to her from Eclipse should also be gradually weakened. When her body completely adapts to the power of Eclipse, Eclipse should stop hurting her body. At that time, the power of Eclipse in her body should not interfere with your treatment, and ordinary medical ninjutsu should be able to heal her injuries, right? Could it be that 4 or 5 years is not enough to adapt? As he said, he cast a puzzled look. Lady Terumi also looked over curiously. If she couldn't fully apply and control the power of Eclipse in 4 or 5 years, it would be a bit disrespectful. The white coat looked at Qishuang with a little contempt, and slowly said, Sir, Qishuang should know that human power is limited. After you have achieved what you have now, after everyone masters a chakra change, it will take more time to try to learn the next change. Next, I don't need to explain it anymore. Hearing this, Qishuang and the others suddenly realized. Lady Terumi already knows 3 conventional escape techniques: water escape, fire escape, and earth escape. Then there is the innate dissolution escape, the acquired boiling escape, and now she has mastered a new bloodline elimination that has attracted worldwide attention: Eclipse escape. There are a total of 6 escape techniques. Because of the innate dissolution escape, water escape and earth escape are naturally compatible with the body, and it didn't take much effort to master them completely. But fire escape is acquired, and later he practiced the bloodline limit boiling escape, which is the 4th and 5th chakra changes. Because the more escape techniques you learn, the harder it is to master them later, and the more time you spend learning new escape techniques. For normal people, it takes at least 2 or 3 years to learn the 3rd chakra change. It takes at least 5 or 6 years to learn the 4th chakra change, and it takes at least 7 or 8 years to learn the 5th change. In a sense, ninjas who can master 3 changes are very rare. More than 3 are even rarer. But Ming unexpectedly learned the 6th chakra change, and it is the most difficult blood elimination among the chakra changes at present. She figured it out by herself. In addition, she does not have the eye techniques such as the Sharingan and the Samsara that can directly observe the chakra changes. She relies entirely on her own senses to explore. With so much power in her hands, it would be a miracle if she could fully control it in a short time. Perhaps, Ming has not even fully mastered the boiling escape that she practiced a few years ago. It is only because there is a dissolving escape of the same level in the body that the boiling escape does not backfire on itself and cause damage to its body. The appearance of this blood elimination that far exceeds the blood limit level finally exposed the hidden danger. It seems that I'm destined to become a cripple. Lady Terumi sighed helplessly. Don't be so pessimistic. Seeing this, Qishuang smiled and encouraged. As far as I know, there is more than one way to treat your injury. It's just that I need some time to prepare. At the very least, using my immortal power should be able to delay your injury. As long as you don't fight with others casually, let alone use Eclipse escape, it should be no problem to delay it for another 10 or 8 years. To treat Ming's meridian injuries, it is not necessary to confront Eclipse escape head on, but you can also go around from other places. Seeing that he was so confident, Lady Terumi did not doubt it, and said with a smile, then wait for your good news. The matter is of great importance. Qishuang will not lie to her. On the other side, Qishuang's clone landed on the floating ice field with 2 captives. Look who I brought you. He smiled and greeted Maingetsu Kizuki. Father. Maingetsu Kizuki immediately recognized that one of the human-shaped ice sculptures was his father. The other one was Kiichi Hoshigaki, the young patriarch of the Hoshigaki family. He learned from Tanaka and others that Hoshigaki was defeated and his father fell into the hands of Hoshigaki's family. Who would have thought that in just a blink of an eye, Qishuang brought people back and also brought Kiichi Hoshigaki back, by the way, which was really incredible. He couldn't understand at all how Qishuang and the others suddenly brought Kiichi Hoshigaki and his father back after just flying to the sky. Seeing his joyful look, Qishuang's clone said, "Hoshigaki Masamune has a special identity. I can't hand him over to you, but you don't have to worry about his safety. I won't touch him for the time being." After that, he took the 2 ice sculptures to the location of the frozen bronze tripod and directly used the ice sealing technique to stick the 2 ice sculptures on it. Open. Then, he cracked the ice again and exposed the heads of the 2. If they were frozen for a long time, both of them would die inside, which was not the result he wanted. Go, call 2 ninjas who can use lightning escape techniques to watch over here. Pointing at Masamune Hazuki, the Nanashiro clone instructed the guards. Yes, sir. A guard left immediately. I didn't expect that you would capture Kiichi and Masamune Hazuki in just a blink of an eye. You are so powerful. It's strange that Obito is so afraid of you. Looking at the 2 fellow prisoners, Hoshigaki Kisame sighed. It's a pity that I couldn't fight you in person. He shook his head again. Don't worry, there will be such a day. The Nanashiro clone looked at him and said meaningfully. Looking at Maingetsu Hazuki, who was walking slowly, the Nanashiro clone went up to him and said, "The war is almost over. I want you to do a dirty thing for me." Dirty thing? Maingetsu Hazuki was a little confused. Then, the Seven Frosts clone came close to his ear and whispered, "I want you to send 2 trustworthy people to the prison." What? Kizuna Maingetsu was surprised and puzzled. Rebuilding Kizuna will definitely require a large number of manpower. Although those old guys are pedantic, they have a lot of experience. Isn't that what you need? Rotten things are no longer suitable for this era. Buried in the old era is their final destination. The Seven Frosts clone said to Maingetsu seriously, "Just like the rotten flesh on the wound, only by cutting it off can we ensure that the new flesh and blood will not be contaminated, and the wound will no longer worsen. And Kizuna is rotten to the core. I want to tear everything down and start again. Believe me, we will usher in a new era, and Kizuna will usher in a real new life." Maingetsu still had a worried look on his face and frowned. "Does Terumi maybe know what you think?" "She doesn't know." The Seven Frosts clone shook his head and whispered, "If she knew, she would definitely not agree. So, I only told you about this." Me. Looking at his father, who was bound by ice not far away, Gui Deng Man, you seemed to understand something. He smiled bitterly and said, "Well, my Gui Deng family doesn't need a basin of dirty water." Chapter 507 7 days. Then, Manu called someone from not far away. Seeing this, Qishuang's clone quietly walked away, leaving the 2 of them alone. "Tanaka, how long have you been working for my Manu family?" Manu looked at the man kneeling on one knee and asked in a complicated tone. 31 years. Tanaka lowered his head and slowly recalled, "I have been working for the Manu family since I can remember. I'm 31 years old now, and I have worked for the Manu family for 31 years. 31 years. It's really long." Manu sighed and suddenly asked, "I wonder if your loyalty is still there?" Cough cough cough. As he said, he covered his mouth and coughed. "What does Lord Manu mean by this?" Tanaka looked up in surprise. "I want you to do something, but you must not let a third person know. Can you guarantee that you will keep your mouth shut?" Cough cough cough. Manu stared into his eyes and asked very seriously. "Yes." Tanaka nodded without hesitation and said, "Master Manu's order is everything." "Well, come closer." Manu waved his hand and whispered, "I want you to go to prison." After listening to the story, Tanaka's whole body was sweating. "Master, this..." He didn't understand what Manu was going to do. "Why? Can't you do it?" Manu frowned slightly, and one hand behind his back had already clenched the stitches. "This matter is too serious. If it is exposed to everyone, it will definitely set off another round of turmoil in Kirigakure. If Tanaka refuses his order, he can only abandon it cruelly. No, it's not that it can't be done, but I don't understand why the master did this. Once this matter is exposed, it will only make the Kido family worse." Tanaka asked sadly. "He has served Kido for 31 years. Although he is not a direct descendant of Kiddo, he also regards Kiddo as his own family. He doesn't want to see Kiddo completely destroyed. Manu looked at the sky without answering. The sky was originally a clear blue, but now it became foggy again, because of the spreading of the surrounding fog. You don't need to know so much, you just need to help me finish the job. Remember, don't let a third person know about this. Ahem. Manu said firmly. Yes. Tanaka turned away helplessly. Although he was very puzzled and even disagreed, Tanaka chose to execute the order without regrets, based on his own loyalty. What a pity for a loyal servant. The Seven Frost clone walked over slowly. You force me to do this. Ahem. Manu shook her head. The war has stopped, and you are no longer needed here. I'll take you back to Teruma's house, to find a medical ninja. Seeing that he was pale, the Seven Frost clone supported him, and instantly soared into the sky. At the residence of Teruma's family, Qishuang's original body solemnly warned the white coat, don't mention Ming's injury to anyone. You will also be responsible for the medicines she needs for daily conditioning. All prescriptions and medical records must be destroyed immediately after use. No one else is allowed to see them. If anyone is dissatisfied, you can let them come to me. After saying that, he glanced at the many high-level people not far away. The white coat nodded repeatedly, and was very happy. With such a strong man standing behind him, no one dared to use force on him. At this time, Qishuang's clone landed on the ground with Gui Deng Manu. Clone. Seeing another Qishuang, Gui Deng Manu realized that the person who was with him before was a clone. Because the one next to him was much worse than that person, and the difference in strength was obvious. This is also the biggest flaw of the clone technique. It is difficult for a single clone to distinguish the real from the fake, but once the clone and the original body stand together, it is easy to distinguish their difference by comparing their strengths. Only the shadow clone, the highest level of clone technique, can make it almost impossible to distinguish. Release. The clone made a hand seal, released the technique by itself, and turned into a few wisps of cold smoke, dissipating in the air. At the same time, Qishuang's original body also learned from the clone that Manu sent people to the prison, but he was not surprised or nervous about it, because the clone is the will of the caster. Everything the clone does is based on the original body's thinking mode and code of conduct, and will never be inconsistent with the original body. And what the clone said to Manu was also a plan he had already planned in his mind a long time ago, but he had never had the opportunity to tell Manu. Then, Qishuang said to the white coat, please check his physical condition again. My lord, why did you bring back the young patriarch of the Ghost Lantern? He is our enemy. Although he was not very happy, the white coat still walked over with a grumble. We have decided to cease fire. It is estimated that the negotiations will start tonight. He is no longer an enemy. Qishuang explained patiently. Is the war finally over? That's great. The white coat was overjoyed. Because of anger and unwillingness, or because of various struggles for interests, everyone started the war. But war only brought destruction and pain. After experiencing pain, everyone returned to reason, and once again hoped for peace. Although the chain of hatred has not been broken, people are tired of war, and peace is the general trend. After an inspection, the white coat gloated and said, go back and prepare for the funeral, the young patriarch of the Ghost Lantern family. Is there really no hope? Qishuang frowned and asked again. Regardless of the special identity of Ghost Lantern Manu, with his extraordinary abilities, if he died like this, it would definitely be a big loss for Kirigakure. It's useless even if you put a knife on my neck. The white coat shrugged and pointed at Manu and said, this kid already has hidden injuries. He is like a pot with a hole in it. He can't hold his life energy at all. If he rests quietly, he may live a few more years. But after a series of battles, his vitality is almost exhausted. Now he is already dying, like a candle in the wind. Although there are no obvious external injuries on the surface, he just looks a little weak, but in fact he is dying. There is no medicine at all. The words of the medical ninja hit Manu's heart like a heavy hammer. Although he knew that his body was in a bad condition, he never thought that it would be so bad. Then how long do I have? Ahem. He asked anxiously. There are still many things that have not been completed. He must arrange everything properly when his life comes to an end. Then, under the concerned eyes of several people, the white coat reported a number. 7 days. After about 7 days, your life will be completely lost. The white coat said to him with gloating. Although the war had ceased, he could not hide his joy at seeing his former enemy end up like this. 7 days? God is really ruthless. Ghost Lantern Man Yu shook his head in self-mockery. The time was too short, so short that he felt desperate. Don't be so pessimistic. Maybe I can give you a little more time. Seeing his sad face, Qishuang said seriously. Chapter 508 Doubts. You. The three people present all looked at him in surprise. The man in the white coat waved his hands and said, Sir Nanashiro, don't joke. Mainjutsu Kizuki is running out of energy, which is a loss of vitality, and it is beyond the scope of medical treatment. You don't know anything about medicine. How can you extend his life? Nanashiro let out a long breath, looked at Mainjutsu Kizuki and said, I can use the ice method to put your body into a dormant state and slow down the speed of your life loss. As for how long it can extend, I don't know. As early as the Third Ninja World War, he used the ice method to save the lives of Captain King and Zabuza. Today, combined with his immortal power, the effect of this ice method is naturally greatly enhanced. Ice hibernation? The white coat pinched his chin and thought for a while, then nodded and said, well, this method is possible. However, this method of ice hibernation is probably only available to you, Lord Qishuang. If it were any other ice escape ninja, I'm afraid they would freeze to death. After saying that, he looked at the young man in white and sighed faintly. Qishuang glanced at the setting sun and said, the time is set tonight. For now, let's all get ready and discuss the ceasefire first. Okay, I'll go back and gather the remaining forces and wait for your notice. Ahem. Man Yu nodded, feeling a little relieved. His life was extended, which meant he would have more time to arrange everything for the Kizuna family. Then, he turned around and left quietly. Then I won't delay you from discussing business, and we'll go down to prepare conditioning medicine for Lord Terumi Mei. The white coat also turned around and left tactfully. Some things are not something he, a medical staff, can participate in. Let them all come over. Terumi whispered to Nanashuang. Yes. Nanashuang responded, and then called several high-ranking officials not far away. How is the injury of Terumi? Someone asked anxiously. The internal injuries are a bit serious, and he needs to rest for a long time. Nanashuang replied expressionlessly. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Then, Terumi said to several people, pass the order to recall all the troops of the Terumi family and temporarily stop all combat activities. We are going to prepare to negotiate with Hazuki Hashigaki. Hit by the sudden ceasefire news, several people couldn't believe it for a while. The Vulpix had just been sealed, and the Hashigaki family was flooded by water again. They finally waited until the water receded, and were preparing to counterattack to regain their ground. Why did they suddenly want to cease fire? Seeing their confused look, Nanashuang patiently explained. Hokage was defeated by Hashigaki and has no strength to fight again. Hashigaki's troops who came with a great victory were also buried by me in a snow. Now, the time for armistice negotiations has come. Kirigakure will usher in a new peace. Hearing this, everyone was very surprised. The long-term war made them miss the previous peaceful life very much. Now, peace has finally come. Everyone go down and prepare and discuss the armistice in the conference room later. After instructing the surprised people, Terumi Mei and Nanashuang turned and left. On the other side, under the order of Hashigaki Mainjutsu, Tanaka came to the prison. Because the clan leader decided to make a last-ditch effort, the guards outside the prison were all transferred away, leaving only a dozen people, and the defense was very weak. However, because everyone was busy with the war, the Terumi and Hashigaki families did not notice this problem. In addition, the prison has only one exit, which is easy to defend and difficult to attack. With only these dozen guards, it is enough to discourage people, so the Terumi and Hashigaki families did not rashly come to rob the prison. With Mainjutsu Kizuki's order, Tanaka easily entered the prison. Unfortunately, all the prisoners in the prison had died, and even several guards inside were killed at some point. How could this happen? Tanaka was shocked. He hurriedly called in all the guards at the entrance of the prison. The corpses in the prison also scared the guards. Besides me, has anyone else entered the prison today? Tanaka asked the guard solemnly. No, only people were transferred today. No one came in. The guards shook their heads in unison, horrified. You know, the people imprisoned in this prison are all the leaders of the former major family forces and senior figures of the Hidden Mist village, and they are involved in a wide range of things. Now, they all died in the prison inexplicably, and they have no way to defend themselves. It is even possible that they were assassinated and retaliated by various forces. Unable to find any clues, Tanaka had to say to everyone, keep an eye on the scene, and don't let anyone come in to destroy it. Maybe we can find out the murderer. I'll go back and report to Lord Manu. Yes. Everyone responded in unison, and Tanaka left quickly with mixed feelings. Lord Manu's order was to execute all the hostages, and once this was successful, in order to keep the secret, he could only choose to commit suicide. This was actually a mission that was bound to die. Now that those old guys were dead, he didn't have to bother with it anymore, and his life was saved. Although he was ready to die in the line of duty, he still wouldn't despise his long life. However, no matter what, he couldn't figure out who got ahead of him, sneaked into the prison silently, and killed everyone. On the other side, Manu returned to the center of the frozen floating ice field, and walked towards the few people who were frozen. Manu, please don't get any closer. Several mist ninjas in charge of guarding immediately stopped him. I just want to talk to my father. You don't have to worry that I will kidnap him. Ahem. Manu whispered to the others. But several guards hesitated. Without Qishuang to hold the line, they dared not let Gidong Manu approach. Seeing that they still did not give in, Gidong Manu said, if I really want to rob someone, can you really stop me? After that, he slipped and broke through the blockade of several people like a slippery catfish. Everyone couldn't help but feel nervous and drew their weapons to attack. I said, I just came to talk to my father. Don't force me to do it. Ahem. Manu looked at the others coldly, with a bit more murderous intent on his face. Okay then. Faced with his tough attitude, everyone had no choice but to agree. After all, with their strength, they were no match for Gidong Manu at all. Forcing a move would only lead to their own death. At the same time, Hoshigaki Kisame and Hoshigaki Kiichi, who were also frozen together, also cast curious glances. They were very curious about what the father and son would say. You're on the wrong path. Ahem. Hoshigaki Maingetsu said as he looked at his haggard father. Chapter 509 Ship arrives. No, there is no right or wrong in this world, only failure and success. Kizuna Masamune said to his son seriously. Kizuna Maingetsu shook his head and whispered, I'm going to take over, father. Take over? Kizuna Masamune glanced at his thin son, and was a little surprised. Maingetsu was not a particularly opinionated child, and would listen to his instructions and everything. Now he was really surprised to hear such a statement of seizing power from his mouth. That's right, it's time to hand it over to you. He smiled self-deprecatingly, looked at his son and asked, depending on the situation, are you going to prepare for the ceasefire negotiations? Yes. Maingetsu nodded. Everything should be based on the interests of the Kizuna family. As for me, don't worry about it. The Kizuna family will give an explanation to Kirigakure after all. He solemnly reminded his son. Yes, I'll remember it. Ahem. Maingetsu nodded again. At this moment, a Kirigakure ninja hurried over. Hello, Master Masamune, Master Maingetsu. The visitor saluted the two respectfully. Tanaka, you don't have to call me sir anymore. From now on, Manu is the new patriarch of the Kid family. Kid Masamune said as he looked at the person who came. This? Tanaka was stunned by the sudden news. Didn't I ask you to do that? Why are you back so soon? Ahem. Manu asked with a frown. Looking around at the curious eyes around him, Tanaka came up to him and whispered, Sir, someone has already taken action in the prison. Who did it? Manu continued to ask. It's not clear yet, and all the guards in the prison have been assassinated. Tanaka replied solemnly. Protect the scene, and wait for the follow-up investigation. Helplessly, Kid Manu had to give the order to wait. Now is not the time to investigate this. On the sea north of the Land of Water, a fleet was quietly heading south. On the leading ship, a strong man wearing sunglasses danced and sang happily on the deck. Yo yo yo, pretend to be a merchant ship. Quietly go south. We must smash the Kirigakure to pieces. An assistant next to him wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said with a smile, Lord Kiribi, it will take some time for us to reach the central island of the water country. I think you should go back to the cabin and take a nap. I will wake you up when we get ashore. They are all ninjas from the Hidden Cloud Village. After receiving insider intelligence from the Hidden Cloud Village and learning that the civil war in the Hidden Cloud Village has entered a white-hot state, the 4th Raikage Lord seized the opportunity and decisively sent 2,000 ninja troops, disguised as merchants, to go south on ships to prepare for a surprise attack on the Hidden Cloud Village. According to the distance from the Hidden Cloud Village to the Hidden Cloud Village and their speed of advancement, they should be able to reach the Hidden Cloud Village in half a day. Although the 2,000 ninja troops are not particularly large, they will definitely produce extraordinary results if they are deployed in the Hidden Cloud Village battlefield at this critical juncture. Even if they can't take advantage of the situation to destroy the Kirigakure, they can still make them suffer heavy losses and never recover. In order to expand the results of the war, the 4th Raikage even sent out his sworn brother, the perfect Jinkriki of Qimogakure, the 8-Tails Killer Bee. At the same time, this is also to make up for the lack of numbers in the surprise attack force. Because they have to guard against the Konoha village and Iwagakure village, which are eyeing them covetously, Qimogakure dare not allocate too many people to surprise attack Kirigakure. These 2,000 people are already the limit. Yo yo yo, I can't sleep when I think about smashing Kirigakure. Soon Killer Bee still danced and sang. When he was in Qimogakure, he was controlled by his elder brother who was the Raikage every day. He couldn't do this or that. Now, after finally getting rid of his elder brother, Killer Bee is like a wild horse that has broken free from its reins, and he is very happy. Seeing that persuasion is ineffective, the assistant is also very helpless. In the entire Qimogakure, except for the 4th Raikage, no one else can control the lively Killer Bee. Just as the Qimogakure troops were quietly approaching, the Terumi family summoned the representatives of Hazuki and Hishigaki, cleared a space in the center of the Kirigakure village, where the former Mizukage building was located, and then started a negotiation meeting. Of course, the Terumi family naturally took the leading position. The representative of the Hashigaki family was the first to speak. Master Terumi Mei, where is our young clan leader? Bring someone. Terumi Mei turned her head and said to Nanashimo. Nanashimo made a gesture to the people next to her, and immediately 2 Miss Ninjas came up carrying a human-shaped ice sculpture. Master Kiichi, are you okay? Several representatives of the Hashigaki family hurriedly stood up and asked. It's okay, I'm just a little uncomfortable from the cold. Hashigaki Kei replied tremblingly. Even with the physique of a ninja, being so frozen and bound is a bit unbearable. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but admire the other 3 fellow sufferers. Hazuki Masamune is fine, but the Hazuki family's water transformation technique is extremely resistant, and the mere cold air will not be unbearable for that old guy. Hashigaki Kisame was quite amazing. His 2 arms were broken at the shoulders, and he was frozen in the ice with such serious injuries, but he didn't say a word. He must be a tough guy. The most powerful and miserable one was the half black and half white weirdo. At least they left one head outside to breathe, so they didn't suffocate to death in the ice. The weirdo was completely frozen in the ice, without even a gap for breathing. If he hadn't seen him moving his eyes occasionally, he would have almost thought that the man was dead. Seeing that the young patriarch was fine, the representative of the Hashigaki family breathed a sigh of relief and said to Terumi Mei, tell me, what do you want to release Master Kiichi? Terumi Mei rested her elbows on the negotiation table and said to them expressionlessly, this time, we called you here not to exchange hostages, but to discuss the future of the Hidden Mist Village, sign a ceasefire agreement, and rebuild the Hidden Mist Village. Ceasefire? Several representatives of the Hashigaki family looked at each other and couldn't help laughing out loud. Stop just because you said so. Who do you think you are? Our Hashigaki family has already gained an absolute advantage and will become the overlord of Kirigakure. Why should we listen to you? A representative of the Hashigaki family sneered unceremoniously. Advantage? Where does the advantage come from? Nanashiro looked at them with a playful look. The man said confidently, "We defeated the Kido family and incorporated part of their original forces. The total force has exceeded 3,000. And your Terumi family, I'm afraid you can't even gather 2,000 people now. After a series of battles, the forces of the three parties have shrunk significantly. Although Kido has not been completely exterminated, they are no longer taken seriously by them. There is only one Terumi who can't even gather 2,000 ninja troops. They, Hoshigaki, are absolutely sure to win the battle." At the same time, the scar was exposed again. Kido Manayu, who was sitting at the negotiation table, looked very ugly, but the situation was stronger than the person, so he had to swallow his anger unwillingly. 3,000? On the other side, Qishuang couldn't help laughing after hearing this. He jokingly said to the others, "Where are your 3,000 ninja troops?" Chapter 510 Intimidation. They will show up when they are supposed to. The Hoshigaki family's representatives couldn't help but lose some momentum, and they were not very confident. There was a strange snowfall earlier, and then the young clan leader was kidnapped inexplicably right under their noses. What's worse is that more than half of their nearly 3,000 ninja troops suddenly disappeared, as if they had evaporated from the face of the earth, leaving no trace. They sent people to search the entire Kirigakure village, but they couldn't find any clues. There were even people saying that they were punished by God, so they suddenly disappeared. It was precisely because of the sudden reduction in the number of ninja troops that the remaining ninjas, who were only a little over 1,000, could not beat Terumi at all, that the Hoshigaki family had to temporarily stop the war and come here to negotiate. As long as the missing ninjas are found, they will start the battle again. At the moment, it is just a helpless compromise. Let me tell you. Nanoshuan glanced at the representatives of the Hoshigaki family meaningfully, and then said, "They were all buried in my heavy snow, with no bones left, and disappeared from this world forever. If it weren't for the fact that we are from the same village, I would want to leave some seeds for Kirigakure, and none of your 3,000 ninja troops would be left." Nanoshuan took all the killing sins by herself, which was the final result obtained after discussing with Ming. The disappearance of the nearly 2,000 ninja troops could not be without an explanation. It is necessary to tell the Hoshigaki family that those people are all dead, so that the Hoshigaki family can completely stop thinking about it. Otherwise, the Hoshigaki family will be obsessed with those missing ninjas and always want to provoke a war again at any time. This is undoubtedly a huge hidden danger. And with Nanoshuang's original reputation for suppressing the six-tailed fox, coupled with the killing of nearly 2,000 people at one time, it will undoubtedly have a huge deterrent effect on the Hoshigaki family. Make them no longer have the will to fight, and can only stop the war obediently. As expected, after hearing Nanoshima's words, the Hoshigaki representatives changed their expressions immediately. You. How is it possible? You must be trying to scare us. You just hid them. Everyone was terrified, and no one was willing to believe such a fact. Just a snowfall quietly destroyed nearly 2,000 ninja troops of Hoshigaki. Moreover, judging from the meaning of the other party's words, there is still room for maneuver, otherwise they can be completely wiped out. Sitting on the side of the negotiation table, the group headed by main Jetsu Kizuki was also horrified. Such a strong man is really terrifying. Judging from this situation, if the other party starts killing without scruples, I'm afraid that another 3,000 people will not be enough to kill. It turns out that they have no chance of winning this war from the beginning. Seeing that Hoshigaki's party was still unwilling to believe the facts, Qishuang continued, "That's nearly 2,000 people. I kidnapped this guy, Kiichi Hoshigaki, right under your noses. Where can I hide them? Hide in my pocket? What a joke." Hearing this, the Hoshigaki representatives were stunned. That's nearly 2,000 living people. Even if they were moved and hidden, there would be no way that there would be no trace left. What's more, the remaining ninjas in the army saw Qishuang kidnap the young clan leader with their own eyes. Apart from that, they didn't see him taking anyone else away. Combined with the many inexplicable traces of destruction they found at the scene, it seems that those missing ninjas were attacked by unknown attacks and their bodies were gone. Originally, they were not willing to believe this guess, but facing this terrifying man who was hard to guess, all the impossibilities could become reality. Those missing ninjas are probably really dead. The Hoshigaki family's dream of dominance was completely shattered. No, no, no. This is impossible. 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 You must be lying to me. You must be lying to me. Kiichi Hoshigaki yelled, completely confused. Originally, he was thinking that he could just deal with the negotiation casually, and when he was released, he would tear up the agreement and start a war again. Now, everything has become a luxury. With only a little over 1,000 ninja troops left, it is difficult for them to even resist Terumi's faction, not to mention that there is also a Hazuki who was defeated by them and may take revenge at any time. The Hoshigaki family has no choice. Looking at the young patriarch Hoshigaki who lost his composure, Qishuang shook his head and said to the two guards next to him, "Take him away and calm him down." Yes. The two responded in unison and immediately carried the human-shaped ice sculpture away, leaving only Kiichi Hoshigaki's unwilling voice echoing in the air. "Now, I will ask you one last question. Do you want to fight? Or do you want to stop?" Qishuang slammed a heavy fist on the negotiation table, and the chakra turned into cold air and scattered. The temperature in the air dropped sharply. In just a moment, a thin layer of ice crystals froze the entire negotiation table, and even the area of nearly 10 meters in radius was completely covered by ice crystals. Everyone felt like they were suddenly stuffed into a refrigerator. Faced with his intimidation, the representatives of Hoshigaki were terrified, and no one dared to speak. After a long while, one of them bravely said, We still need a little time. Go back and discuss it again." Half an hour. Terumi looked at the few people coldly and said, "I will only give you half an hour to discuss. After half an hour, if you still don't get the answer I want, I will let Nana Shuang launch an indiscriminate large-scale attack on Hoshigaki's base, erase you completely from Kirigakure, and then establish a new order with the people of Kizuna." Okay, okay, okay. The representatives of Hoshigaki nodded repeatedly, and then rolled and crawled away quickly. Because the senior leaders of the Hoshigaki faction still had illusions earlier, they did not take this negotiation seriously and just wanted to deal with it casually. Now, with their illusions shattered, the Hoshigaki clan has no choice, and peace talks are inevitable. This involves the division of interests in the future. They can't make the decision, and they have to go back and discuss it before they can really sign a ceasefire agreement. At the negotiation table, watching the Hoshigaki clan leave in embarrassment, Manu of Hazuki felt relieved. Then, he asked Qishuang seriously, "Are those people really dead?" "Ahem. They are definitely dead, and there is no trace of their bodies." Qishuang nodded and replied, "If I didn't agree to cooperate with you at that time, would you kill us too?" "Ahem." Manu asked again. "Yes." Qishuang nodded and continued, "If we continue to fight, more people will die. If killing you can save more people, I will definitely do it. You are really a ruthless person." Manu of Hazuki sighed helplessly. Although he also killed people, he would still hesitate to kill so many people at once. But the guy in front of him can make a decision without thinking, which is really terrible. What's even more terrifying is that the other party still has the ability to realize these ideas. Perhaps they are really afraid that Qishuang will start killing again. About 20 minutes later, the representative of the Hoshigaki family hurried back. Chapter 511 Water Shadow, Part 1. Greetings, Lady Terumi Medi and Lady Nanashimo. The leading representative of Hoshigaki was replaced by a middle-aged man in his 40s, who led everyone to salute Nanashimo and the others, completely losing his previous arrogant attitude. As for the Hazuki clan next to them, they didn't even look at them. Losers, they were not qualified to be looked at. Terumi Medi nodded and motioned them to sit down. The attitude of the Hoshigaki clan was already very clear. Although the specific terms of the agreement had not been negotiated, she knew that the war in Kirigakure was finally coming to an end. Then, the three forces began to discuss, argue, and compromise for nearly 2 hours. After all, the power of words is the most pale, and strength is the confidence of everything. Because the Terumi clan was the strongest and Nanashimo was by their side, they took the largest piece of Kirigakure's cake, followed by Hoshigaki, and Hazuki was the last. Hazuki's clan was completely defeated by Hoshigaki. After Hazuki's full moon gathered the remaining ninjas, although it was not as good as before, it was far better than the average small family, and was qualified to participate in the division of Kirigakure's rights and interests. After the armistice agreement was finalized, someone from Terumi's faction said, the fourth Hokage was controlled by Uchiha Obito, and now there is no news. The reconstruction of Kirigakure cannot be done without the Mizukage. To coordinate the overall situation, I propose that everyone take this opportunity to elect the fifth Hokage. I agree. Someone else echoed, we must act in an emergency. Kirigakure has suffered heavy casualties now. We can no longer hold the Mizukage battle as before, and decide the Mizukage by force. After saying that, he looked at Ninashiro cautiously. Fortunately, that scary guy's not angry. He breathed a sigh of relief. Then how do you want to elect the Mizukage? The representative of Hashigaki's faction frowned and asked. They had expected that Terumi's faction would take advantage of the situation to propose the selection of the Mizukage. There is no better time to choose the Mizukage than at this time. Whether it is Azumi or Hashigaki, they cannot refuse the Terumi faction, which is now the strongest. Vote. A representative of Terumi's faction said, our three families can propose suitable candidates first, and then everyone can vote. The one with the most votes will be the most suitable to inherit the position of Mizukage. Of course, in order to show fairness, our Terumi family has 5 votes, the Hashigaki family has 3 votes, and the Hazuki family has 2 votes. Hearing this, a representative of the Hashigaki family couldn't help but sneer, that's really fair. Terumi alone has 5 votes, and they and Hazuki together have exactly 5 votes. In other words, even if Hashigaki and Hazuki join forces, they can't decide the candidate for the position of Mizukage. Fortunately, Terumi's faction still saved a little face for itself, and didn't let its votes outweigh the two families. Otherwise, this vote would have no meaning at all, and the Terumi family would have decided directly. Okay, give everyone 10 minutes to think about it. After 10 minutes, our 3 families will propose candidates for Mizukage, and then vote. Terumi made the final decision, and didn't let them have any more meaningless arguments. Then, the representatives of the 3 families talked about it, and began to think about the candidates for Mizukage. Since your Terumi family proposed to select the Mizukage, you must have an ideal candidate for the Mizukage, right? Qishuang asked the blue-skirted beauty curiously. Although he was extremely powerful, he was alone after all, and it was not suitable for him to participate in the internal affairs of the Terumi family. Therefore, he did not know what the senior executives of the Terumi family discussed before the 3 families negotiated. Guess. Terumi smiled at him, as happy as a child. It won't be me, right? Qishuang scratched her head with a bitter smile. You guessed it right, but there is no reward. Terumi smiled and covered her mouth. This was the result of her efforts to overcome all objections during the discussion at the Terumi family. In her heart, Qishuang was fully qualified to be the Mizukage, both in terms of strength and wisdom. With the 5 votes of their Terumi family, and the alliance with Manzuki Hazuki who agreed to a ceasefire early on, even if they only got 1 vote, the efforts of the Hashigaki family would be in vain. At the same time, a representative of the Terumi family found Manzuki Hazuki according to their earlier arrangements. However, he also saw a representative of Hashigaki who had just left. Mansuki-sama, our Terumi has decided to vote for Ninashimo-sama. What do you think? Representative Terumi said to him straight to the point. Very good. Mansuki Hazuki nodded and replied with a smile. However, we also have different opinions. I can only do my best, ahem. As he said that, he spread out his palm. Representative Terumi noticed that there was a word written on the white palm with water stains. Then, Mansuki Hazuki leaned close to his ear and whispered, the Hashigaki family seems to have the same idea, what do you think? Hearing this, Representative Terumi's pupils shrank slightly. In case of changes, please keep it confidential. Mansuki Hazuki's face had a playful smile. Well, thank you for your advice, Lord Mansuki. Representative Terumi nodded and turned away with a lot on his mind. The 10 minutes were up soon. Now, please announce the candidates for Mizukage. Terumi sat in the main seat and said calmly to the representatives of the 2 families. The Hashigaki family spoke first. We think that Master Hashigaki Kiichi is quite suitable for the position of Mizukage. What about Hashigaki? Terumi Medi looked at the Hashigaki family expressionlessly. The candidates of the Hashigaki family did not exceed her expectations. Hashigaki Manayu did not say a word, but just sat quietly in his seat. Someone next to him spoke on his behalf. We think Master Hashigaki Manayu is also suitable. Manjo? Terumi Medi frowned slightly. Manjo's health was getting worse and worse, and he was not capable of serving as the Mizukage at all. She was more willing to believe that this was the result of the Hashigaki family deliberately bringing it up to make trouble. However, the Hashigaki family could not find a suitable candidate except Manjo. Then, she winked at the assistant next to her, and the assistant stood up and said, "Our candidates are Master Terumi Medi and Master Nanashiro." Although they had already finalized the voting target internally, in order to show fairness and justice, they deliberately added the young clan leader to the candidates. Now, everyone can vote. The assistant immediately took out a stack of cards from his pocket and distributed them according to the number of votes from the three parties, and then said, "Everyone just needs to write the name of the voter on it. After 10 minutes, the answers will be revealed at the same time." The representatives of Hashigaki and Hazumi did not hesitate at all, and immediately began to write. The only sound on the negotiation table was the sound of the pen tip scratching the cards. The representatives of Terumi's side were unwilling to lag behind, and also decided on the target without hesitation. Only one person was a little slow, and hesitated for nearly a minute, before starting to write. Before 10 minutes were up, the three parties had made their final decision. "Since everyone is so decisive, then reveal your answers," Medi Terumi said to the representatives with a smile. The representatives of Hashigaki and Terumi smiled at each other and revealed the answers at the same time in tacit understanding. Medi Terumi, Medi Terumi, Medi Terumi. 5 votes in a row, all the same color, all wrote Medi Terumi. Chapter 512 Water Shadow, Part 2. You guys. Medi Terumi was shocked. Such a result was totally beyond her expectation. She thought that Hashigaki's party would make trouble, and that Hazuki's party was very unwilling. Their votes might be concentrated on one person, to balance the 5 votes of Terumi's party. However, she never thought that the person they concentrated their votes on was actually herself. You know, Terumi chose Nanashimo internally, and would cast all the votes to her. Even if they gave all 5 votes to her, it would only tie with Nanashimo. In the end, the Mizukage must be decided from the two of them. And with her attitude, she would naturally not compete with Nanashimo, and the position of Mizukage would still fall into Nanashimo's hands. Hashigaki Hazuki was just wasting his efforts. However, as the ballots of Terumi's family were unveiled one by one, she saw a strange answer. In addition to the 4 ballots with Nanashimo written on them, there was another ballot with Medi Terumi written on it. One of the 5 voters of Terumi's family did not obey her earlier order. Why? Why didn't you follow my order? Medi Terumi looked seriously at the representative who voted wrongly. That person was the representative who had contacted Mainjetsu Hazuki earlier. The other representatives of Terumi's faction all cast meaningful glances at this unexpected companion. "I'm sorry, Medi Terumi." Facing the sharp gaze of the young clan leader, the man said with a stiff face, "I think you are the most suitable candidate for the position of Mizukage. Although Nanashi is very strong, even so strong that no one can resist, Nanashi is just your friend after all, and you are the heir of the Terumi family. No one is more suitable than you." The Terumi family did have a candidate for voting, but after meeting Mainjetsu Hazuki, he had different thoughts. Because Mainjetsu Hazuki showed him a word, Ming, and told him that Hazuki would vote for Medi Terumi. Originally, when the Terumi senior leaders discussed it at the beginning, the candidate they had decided on was Medi Terumi. But with the young clan leader overruling everyone, they had to choose Nanashi Jonin. Although Nanashiro is a very strong Jonin, she is just an outsider after all, and everyone is bound to have some grudges. Therefore, after learning about Hashigaki's attitude, he once again thought of supporting Terumi Medi. Originally, before unveiling the ballot, he was still a little worried that Hashigaki would fool him and cause unexpected voting results, so he was ready to destroy the ballot at any time. But after seeing that 5 consecutive votes were cast for the young clan leader, A big stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. You. Facing his self-righteousness, Terumi Medi was so angry that she couldn't speak. Seeing the atmosphere getting more and more solemn, Qishuang collected 10 ballots and sighed. 6-4. You have the most votes, which is also the popular choice. The 5th generation Mizukage of Kirigakure is you, Ming. Hearing his words, Terumi Medi said unwillingly, this time doesn't count. Let's vote again. No need. Qishuang glanced at the representatives present and said to her helplessly, whether it is Hoshigaki Kizuna or your Terumi, they don't want to see me ascend to the position of Mizukage. You are the only one who is really willing to support me. No matter how many times they vote, the result will not change. They can choose other people, but not me. He is too strong. So strong that Hoshigaki Kizuna is afraid. Now, he is still alone. If the Mizukage has the power in his hands again, Kirigakure will no longer be controlled by anyone. This is a result that Hoshigaki Kizuna absolutely does not want to see. Therefore, they would rather choose Ming, who was originally the enemy, than choose him. Am I right? Qishuang glanced at everyone with interest. Representatives from both Hoshigaki and Kizuna lowered their heads, and no one dared to look at them. On the side, seeing Ninashimo give up the fight for the position of Mizukage, the representatives of Terumi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If this terrifying guy insisted on fighting for the position of Mizukage, they really had no way to stop him. Perhaps, the position of Mizukage could only be left vacant for the time being, and no one could take it. Then, they all spoke out to persuade Terumi Medi. Ming Terumi, you are the one that everyone wants, and it is most appropriate for you to be the 5th generation Mizukage. Well, I also think that Medi Terumi is the most suitable. Even Ninashimo has no objection, so Medi Terumi should not refuse. Although this result was different from what they had expected, it was more in line with the wishes of everyone in Terumi's family, and it was a lucky coincidence. Therefore, no one blamed the companion who voted wrongly, and some even quietly gave him a thumbs up. Ninashang. Facing the enthusiasm of the crowd, Terumi Medi was a little overwhelmed. She looked at the man in white next to her, hoping to seek help. Ninashang smiled and shook her head gently, then took a deep breath, and knelt on one knee. Meet the Mizukage-sama. After all, a forced melon is not sweet. Even if he can rely on force to suppress everyone and sit on the position of Mizukage, this will also bury deeper troubles. Instead of doing this, it is better to go with the flow. Ming is the result of everyone's unanimous choice, and it is not easy to cause turmoil in the future. Originally, he didn't have too many ideas about that position. It doesn't matter whether there is one or not. Seeing him take the lead, all the people present from the 3 parties of Hoshigaki Terumi, Hazumi and Kizuki knelt down and saluted, and the shouts resounded through the sky. Meet the Mizukage-sama. Meet the Mizukage-sama. Meet the Mizukage-sama. Sigh. Terumi Medi was in a very complicated mood. She wanted to refuse everyone, but in the face of the unanimous shouts, she could only sigh helplessly in the end. She had never thought of becoming the Mizukage. In her heart, Qishuang was the most suitable candidate. Unfortunately, things did not go as she wished. In the end, the person who became the Mizukage turned out to be her. Everyone, get up. She asked everyone to get up, and then she ordered, today, go back and have a good rest. Tomorrow we will officially start the preparations for rebuilding Kirigakure. After that, she added one more sentence. Don't forget to be vigilant to prevent the invasion of Kirigakure, Konoha and other overseas forces. Yes. Everyone responded and was about to leave, when suddenly an anxious voice came from a distance. Report, there is an emergency. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice, but saw a Kirigakure ninja who was exhausted and running from a distance. Report, there is an emergency. Report, there is an emergency. Then 2 more Kirigakure ninjas came from a distance, one after the other, shouting. Everyone couldn't help but feel nervous when they saw it and had an ominous premonition. What happened? Medi Terumi immediately stopped the first Kirigakure ninja and asked loudly. This? The visitor hesitated when he found out that the person who stopped him was the young patriarch of the Terumi family. He belonged to the Hazuki clan and was not under the jurisdiction of Terumi Medi. At this moment, Hazuki Manayu stepped out and said, our 3 families had discussed a ceasefire and selected Terumi Medi as the 5th generation Mizukage. If you have anything to say, just tell Mizukage-sama. There is no need to hide it. Cough cough cough. After saying that, he started coughing violently again. Hearing this, the visitor hurriedly saluted and said, "Report to Mizukage-sama. My companions and I are responsible for guarding the northern waters, and found a suspicious fleet approaching our central island. After repeated investigations, we determined that it was the ninja force of Kirigakure. I know that some people must be very confused about this result. So, I reiterate that this is not a brainless and cool article. It is impossible for Nana Frost to let go of her arrogance and make everyone convinced. The reason for this is that Nana Frost and Terumi's overall power are not close enough. If at this time, Nana Frost and Terumi Mei are already a couple, the result will definitely be Nana Frost's rise. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 513. Pressure. Do you two have the same information? Terumi frowned and looked at the two Miss Ninjas who arrived later. Looking at the emblems on their bodies, they belonged to Terumi and Hishigaki respectively. All the intelligence ninjas from the three parties were present. Yes, Lord Mizukage. The two knelt down and saluted. At the same time, hearing that Kirigakure was attacking, the crowd of representatives from the three parties seemed to be in an uproar, and everyone was very worried. At present, the civil war in Kirigakure has just ended, and the ninjas have suffered heavy casualties. Their strength is far less than half of what it was before the war. It is impossible to resist the attack of Kirigakure. Kirigakure, I'm afraid it will be destroyed. Although they have long been mentally prepared for the other four villages to send troops to intervene, when this moment really comes, they are still a little afraid to accept it. Especially now that the war has just ended. Seeing that everyone's mood is becoming more and more pessimistic, Qishuang can't help but roar. What are you panicking about? Kirigakure hasn't even attacked yet. Are you ready to sit back and wait for death? After his roar, everyone's minds became much clearer. After seeing the pair of angry eyes again, they couldn't help but shrink their necks and stop all kinds of pessimistic fantasies. Terumi Mei looked at the three people and continued to ask, how many people are there here? Who is the commander? How long will it take to land? Or when will they arrive at the Kirigakure village? The intelligence ninja of the Kizuna family took a deep breath and said, according to our preliminary investigation, they should be about 2,000 people. The commander is unknown, but we found that the famous 8-tailed Jinchuriki of Kirigakure, Killer Bee, is among the people coming. It will take about half an hour for them to stop the ship and dock. Not bad. Terumi Mei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It's just 2,000 people. Although it's also difficult to deal with Kirigakure in its current state, it's not enough to completely destroy Kirigakure. If Kirigakure comes out in full force, it will really be the end of Kirigakure. More importantly, the ninja troops of Kirigakure have not landed yet and are still on the sea. The ninjas of Kirigakure are mostly good at water escape and have an absolute geographical advantage on the sea. If the battlefield is chosen on the sea, they can undoubtedly greatly reduce their own losses. Then, Terumi turned to look at Nanashi and said seriously, can you continue to fight? 8-tailed Killer Bee is a perfect Jinchuriki with extraordinary fighting ability. There are not many people in the Hidden Mist village who can fight him. Manayu Hazuki and Hishigaki Kisame are qualified, but they are either ill or have ulterior motives, so none of them can be used. And because of the eclipse release, she herself can no longer act rashly. Now in the Hidden Mist village, Nanashi is the only one who can resist 8-tailed Killer Bee. No problem, my Mizukage. Nanashi replied solemnly, while carrying Samehuda on her back. How many people do you want? Terumi asked again. 500. Nanashi said without raising her head. Any request? Terumi asked calmly. She knew very well that with Nanashi's ability, the number of enemies was meaningless. At the same time, the representatives of the other three parties felt complicated after hearing his confident words. Although Nanashiro announced the news that he had wiped out nearly 2,000 ninja troops of Hishigaki at one time, and everyone could not find the bodies, they did not see it with their own eyes after all, and they still had doubts in their hearts. However, because of his power, everyone could only hide their doubts in their hearts, and dared not say them out loud. Now, Nanashiro dared to confront the 2,000 ninja troops of Kirigakure with only 500 people. There is no doubt that this is to reproduce the record of 1 against 1,000. They were happy, worried, and a little scared. They were happy that there was such a strong man in Kirigakure who could rewrite the situation by himself. They were worried that Nanashiro would be too confident and fail to stop Kirigakure. They were even more afraid that Nanashiro could really achieve his goal. Because such a ninja is really too scary. As long as he is in Kirigakure, everyone has to put away their little thoughts, not knowing the complicated feelings of the people behind him. Qishuang looked up and said, "No requirements, as long as you can clone yourself." "Okay." Terumi Mei nodded, looked at the representatives and said, "I will order Terumi, Hishigaki, and Kizuna to gather 500 ninjas with intact combat power as quickly as possible and hand them over to Qishuang's command, to stop the Cloud Hidden Ninja Army with all their strength." "Yes, Lord Mizukage." Without saying much, everyone dispersed and left immediately. 3 minutes later, they returned with a large group of ninjas, totaling nearly 1,000 people. He casually selected 500 people to leave the line, and Qishuang immediately led them out of the village and headed for the northern seas. Ninjas have extraordinary leg strength, and they are like the wind when they are moving at full speed. 10 minutes later, Qishuang and his party arrived at the northern coast of the central main island. Seeing that there were no ships on the sea, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The Cloud Hidden Ninja Army has not yet docked. Everyone, rest where you are and be ready to fight at any time. After giving the troops a rest order, Qishuang called in the 3 intelligence ninjas who had reported the news earlier. In order to facilitate contacting the garrison ninjas on the beach, he deliberately brought the 3 of them with him. "I need to know the latest intelligence about the Cloud Hidden Army. You should quickly contact your companions nearby and ask them to come immediately." He solemnly ordered the 3 of them. "Yes, Master Qishuang." The 3 of them responded in unison and took out 3 types of signal tubes from their pockets. With 3 piercing screams, 3 fireworks of different colors bloomed in the sky. The 3 ninjas stationed near the coast immediately saw the signal, but they were all very surprised because the signals from the other 2 parties were too close to their own signal transmission points, as if they were transmitted by the same person. Although they were very confused, they still looked for them quickly with curiosity. Soon, they saw a strange army mixed with 3 ninjas, and their doubts became even stronger. At the same time, they also saw the garrison ninjas from the other 2 parties. However, because this place was far away from the battlefield of the Hidden Mist Village, and they had garrison missions, they usually just ignored each other when they met each other. Today was no exception. However, when they found the companion who sent the signal, their doubts deepened, because their companions were all mixed up with the hostile Hidden Mist ninjas. "What are you doing? What's going on? Why are you together?" The 3 garrison ninjas who gathered together loudly questioned the companion who sent the signal. "The war is over, and we don't need to be on guard against each other anymore." The 3 of them happily reported the good news to their respective garrison companions. "Ah." The 3 garrison ninjas were surprised. "This is Master Nanashiro, the commander-in-chief sent by the 5th Mizukage to stop the Hidden Cloud Army." The 3 introduced him to their companions again. Although there were still many doubts in their hearts, the 3 garrison ninjas did not dare to neglect, and immediately saluted the young man in white. "Greetings, Master Nanashiro." "Greetings, Master Nanashiro." "Greetings, Master Nanashiro." Because this ragtag army of hundreds of people has already explained everything, only a unified mist village can allow the 3 ninjas to be in the same team safely. There is no need to worry about fighting for a long time like before. Solving the external threat is the final story of this volume. Chapter 514 Blockade. Let's not waste time talking. The reason I asked the 3 of them to gather you is to find out where the Kirigakure ninja troops are now. How long will it take for them to land? Qishuang asked the garrison ninjas seriously. The three garrison ninjas looked at each other, and then one of them stepped out and said, "According to the latest news from our companions on the sea, the Kirigakure fleet will appear in our sight in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes? Qishuang thought for a moment, and waved to send them off, saying, "You go down, leave this to me." Yes. The garrison ninjas retreated one after another. Seeing this, several ninjas who originally belonged to Teruma's faction surrounded them. "Sir Qishuang, how are you going to lead us to meet the enemy?" one of them asked bravely. Hearing this, all the ninjas on standby looked over. This is also what they are most concerned about right now. However, except for the ninjas who originally belonged to Teruma's faction, the ninjas to which Ashigaki Kizuki belonged had nothing to do with this terrifying man, so they did not dare to come up and ask rashly. Facing many curious, eager, or fearful eyes, Qishuang calmly said to everyone, "To fight against Kirigakure, I will be enough alone. You will use the clone technique later. Each of you will create 2 clones and stand on the shorter chair for me. Just bluff." Hearing such a strategic plan, everyone was dumbfounded. It was too easy and too childish. Then, Qishuang gave another instruction. "Remember, the clone and the real body should not stand together. Exchange positions with other people's clones. Prevent people from discovering the flaws." Hearing this, the ninjas of Teruma's school seemed to understand something, and they confirmed with a stiff upper lip, "Could it be that, sir, you want us to use the clone technique to create signs of the existence of a large-scale ninja force, so as to scare off the ninjas of Kirigakure?" "That's right." Qishuang nodded. Then, the man said with a sad face, "My lord, please stop playing. The combat power of the clone is really limited. Once we fight, they will definitely find out the flaws. By then, it will be all over." Qishuang rolled her eyes at him and said, "Of course I know that the flaws will be exposed once the war starts, so I won't give them a chance to attack. You don't need to worry about this at all. Okay, go down and rest and recover your strength." Seeing that he was unwilling to explain too much, everyone was very helpless and had to retreat with full of doubts. 5 minutes passed quickly. First, a few small black dots appeared on the sea, and then the shape of the ship gradually became visible. Qishuang immediately ordered everyone, make clones and stand by. Don't fight at all without my order." Hearing this, the mist ninjas immediately formed seals and cast spells. Clone technique, water style, water clone technique, earth style, earth clone technique. As their fingers flew, more clones appeared on the ground. The small army that originally had only 500 people instantly turned into a large ninja army of 1,500 people. During these 5 minutes, Qishuang had accumulated the natural energy needed to perform the immortal arts. He was going to use the immortal arts to decide the outcome with one strike. Then, he put his palms together and harmonized the chakra in his body with the natural energy. Ice Dragon Sage mode. When the two energies were completely balanced in his body, blue eyeshadow appeared on his eyelids again and spread down along the wings of his nose, turning into a blue face. Above his head, a pair of blue horns appeared in front of everyone again. When he completely entered the immortal state, the temperature of the space within a radius of nearly 10 meters dropped sharply, and the ground was stained with a layer of white frost by the cold air overflowing from his body. Everyone saw how powerful he was, but when they released their chakra perception to sense how strong this man was, they found that the chakra aura on the other side was extremely obscure and elusive. Everyone stay where you are, and do not go into battle recklessly. If you disobey the order, you will be killed without mercy. After another warning, Qishuang disappeared in front of everyone in an instant. By the time they found the figure again, it was already hanging high in the sky, on the deck of the front ship of the cloud-hidden army. Looking at the land getting closer and closer, Kirby was so happy that he danced again. Yo, we are about to go ashore, and will soon be able to destroy the group of Miss Ninjas. I completed the task assigned by my big brother, and returned with victory. Yeah, just as he was getting excited, the voice of the eight-tailed Ashiki came to his heart. B. Stop singing first. I feel that the natural energy around me is a little abnormal. Huh. Kirby stopped immediately, and while searching around, he replied in his heart, why didn't I find anything abnormal? Idiot. You can't sense natural energy. Of course you can't find the abnormality in the nearby sea area. The Ashiki cursed indignantly. Then what did you find? Kirby was not angry and asked in his heart. The Eight Tails released its perception and followed the flow of natural energy, saying, the natural energy in the nearby sea area is gathering in one place, as if in the sky. As the detection got closer and closer to the center of the natural energy, a figure appeared in its perception. Oh no, there's someone in the sky. It's an enemy attack. The Ushiki screamed and hurriedly reported the results of the detection to his Jinchuriki. Killer Bee was stunned for a moment, then he looked up quickly, and soon he found a vague figure nearly 200 meters above the sea. Sure enough, there's someone. He was also shocked, and immediately turned over, and jumped out of the deck, and landed on the sea. The cloud ninjas on the deck didn't know what was going on, so they rushed to the edge of the deck, and shouted his name loudly, but Killer Bee ignored them, as if he didn't hear them. Aha, can we use the tail beast ball to shoot that guy down? Looking at the vague figure in the sky and the rapidly gathering clouds, Killer Bee stood on the sea and asked the Ushiki solemnly. Although the two sides have not officially met, the other party quietly appeared above the fleet of Kirigakure at this time, which is definitely not a well-intentioned friend. In addition, what Abe said, there is a large amount of abnormal natural energy gathering, and the abnormal celestial phenomenon he saw, this is likely to be a sign of launching a large-scale attack. At this distance, you should be able to compress the tail beast jade into a light cannon. Ushiki replied affirmatively. Well, let's go all out, Abe. Killer Bee screamed, and when he was about to perform the complete tail beast transformation, the temperature in the air began to drop sharply. It was the 7 frosts in the sky that completed the preparation of the technique. Winter is here, everything withers. Senjutsu ice release snow drifting on the earth Elysium with the huge amount of water vapor in the sea and the control of natural energy. He once again launched the celestial technique that claims to stop time. In an instant, goose feathers and heavy snow fell in the sky within a radius of nearly 10,000 meters. Well, I have corrected the problem of Kirigakure commander that everyone reported. Chapter 515 Locking the Ox. Part 1. Why is it snowing suddenly? Yes, the temperature suddenly dropped a lot. On the deck of the Cloud Hidden Ninja, the Cloud Ninjas were discussing. B. Hurry up, that man has made a move. Seeing the sudden change in the sky, the Ushio shouted anxiously in Kiribe's heart. Unfortunately, Kiribe seemed to have not heard its voice, dragging a few octopus tails, staring blankly at the sky, motionless. At the same time, the originally noisy sounds on the deck of the ship suddenly disappeared, and it became a dead silence. Only a few ships quietly moved slowly along the current, like the legendary ghost ship, with an indescribable weirdness and horror. Illusion? Seeing that his partner had no reaction, the Ushio immediately guessed. It then found Kiribe's soul consciousness, only to see it standing in the consciousness space, indeed looking like it was under an illusion. B. Wake up. The Ushio injected his chakra into Kiribe's soul consciousness body, while helping to remove the illusion. He called out loudly, "Hey, what happened to me?" With the help of the bull ghost, Kiribe woke up with a start, and scratched his head blankly, while looking at the huge bull-headed consciousness behind him. You've been caught in someone else's illusion. The bull ghost cursed angrily. Oh, Kiribe suddenly realized, and just as he was about to take back control of his body, he found that he could not control his body no matter what. In fact, he almost thought that his body had turned into a piece of stone, completely lost the ability to control, and had no perception at all in his body. How could he know that the 7 Frosts fairy art, although the effect is very similar to an illusion, is not an illusion at all, and is even more overbearing than an illusion? This is a technique that blocks nerve conduction, which is fundamentally different from an illusion that disrupts nerve perception. Although with the help of the bull ghost, Kiribe's soul consciousness got rid of the limitations of the physical body and completely returned to normal, the nerve blocking effect on his physical body was not eliminated, so his whole body seemed to be paralyzed and completely out of control. In the sky, looking at the muscular man with sunglasses on the sea, Qishuang recognized at a glance that it was the 8 Tails Jinchuriki of Kirigakure, Killer Bee. It's over. Seeing the magic take effect, he immediately dived towards the target. As long as Killer Bee is captured alive, the farce of Kirigakure will be completely over. B. What are you doing? He's rushing down. Judging from the situation, the target is you. In the bottom of Killer Bee's heart, the cow ghost shouted anxiously. My body has completely lost consciousness and I can't control it at all. Killer Bee said in horror. What? The cow ghost was surprised. For ordinary illusions, as long as a third party's chakra is injected to interfere with the illusionist's control, the illusion will be completely ineffective. This is the first time it has encountered such a situation. Seeing the figure in the sky getting closer and closer to the sea, the cow ghost said anxiously, "Let me try." Then, it transferred its own chakra out of the sealed space and seeped out of Killer Bee's body. Chakra turned from red to black, and after completely covering Killer Bee's entire body, it turned from virtual to real, expanding into a huge monster with a bull's head and an octopus tail that was 30 meters tall. That was the real body of the tailed beast of the Ashiki. At the same time, Qishuang, who was diving down rapidly, was also surprised when she saw this scene. My fairy technique is ineffective against Jinkraki? It shouldn't be. In theory, as long as there is a real physical body and an individual who needs nerve conduction to move, he will not be immune to his move. Moreover, he also clearly saw that Killer Bee stopped moving, which was indeed the state where the fairy technique was effective. But why can he still perform the complete tailed beast transformation after being hit? Qishuang was a little surprised. With such doubts, he punched the Ashiki who had revealed his true body. Just after completing the tailed beast transformation, he saw the small fist coming down from the top of his head. The Ashiki did not dare to neglect it, and immediately waved his fist, that was hundreds of times larger, to fight back. Because it knew that, after seeing it reveal its true body of the tailed beast, the other party still dared to fight in close combat, which must be confident enough. If it doesn't take it seriously, it will definitely suffer a great loss. Boom. Two fists, one big and one small, collided with each other. Compared with the Ashiki, Qishuang's fist was too big. Even his fist was not even half as big as the Ashiki's fist. Although his fist was small, he had physical strength that was not inferior to the tailed beast level in the state of immortalization. In just a moment, the Ashiki felt a huge force coming from the opponent's fist. Under the impact of that huge force, it couldn't even stand steadily, and was directly knocked back. It slid dozens of meters on the sea surface before it completely stabilized its position. Entity? Recalling the touch of the punch just now, Qishuang suddenly understood something. When the tailed beasts fully reveal their true bodies, their chakra will turn from virtual to real, and they have real flesh and blood bodies, but before they are fully materialized, they have no entity, only a virtual body composed of chakra. Therefore, although his fairy technique just now fixed Killer Bee, it was ineffective against the virtual 8-tailed beast in Killer Bee's body. Therefore, the 8 tails was able to complete its transformation into a tailed beast and fight back against him. Who are you, and why did you suddenly attack us? Miyagi asked loudly in shock and anger. The opponent's strength was no less than its own, and it was simply an inhuman monster. Qishuang sneered while making a seal. Why, only you, the Cloud Village, are allowed to take action, and we, the Mist Village, are not allowed to fight back. What's the reason? Mist Village? Looking at the empty forehead of the young man in white, Miyagi was stunned for a moment, and then he found that there was a forehead guard engraved with a ripple mark on the opponent's arm. It turned out that the people from the Mist Village had arrived. While talking, Qishuang also quickly completed his own technique. Synopsis Ice Release Forbidden God 8 locks. He immediately pressed his right palm, which had gathered chakra, on the sea surface, and immediately 11 water columns surged around Miyagi. Then the water columns froze and turned into cold ice locks and shot towards the 8 tails in the middle. Seeing this, Miyagi waved his 8 octopus tails and 2 fists and immediately knocked away the ice chains. Unfortunately, after being knocked away, the ice chains quickly shot back. Under Qishuang's control, he attacked it again from all angles. After all, its body was too big to completely avoid the attacks of ice chains one after another. Soon, one of its tails was tied up by the ice chain, followed by the second, the third. After a few breaths, its head, hands and 8 tails were all tied up by ice chains, like a piece of animal skin that was stretched open by humans. 11 ice chains pulled it apart on the sea surface from 11 directions, and it could no longer move. Abba, what's wrong with you? Are you hungry, and have no strength? In the consciousness space, seeing the situation outside, Kirby couldn't help but ask anxiously. No, there's something wrong with these ice locks. I feel like there's a giant pulling back at the end of each ice lock, and I can't pull them at all. Niugu, I replied hurriedly in his heart, no longer in the mood to joke with him. Chapter 516, Locking the Ox, Part 2. Even your strength can't pull it? Kirby was surprised and hurriedly said, my body has recovered consciousness. Let's exit the tailed beast state and fight the enemy in human form. The true body of the tailed beast is too huge, and every move has the power to move a mountain. Just the waves caused by the battle between the two sides have shaken the nearby ships. It makes people wonder if the battle will be completely overturned if it is more intense. In order to prevent accidental injury to our own people, it is better to exit the tailed beast state to fight the enemy. Okay, I'll leave it to you. The cow demon responded in his heart and immediately drew back his chakra to seal it. Seeing that its huge body began to shrink rapidly, getting smaller and smaller, the ice chain bound to its body gradually began to loosen. The human beast helping each other is indeed more difficult to deal with than a simple tailed beast. Nana Frost frowned slightly, but did not give up the intention of the technique. He controlled the ice chain, and it shrank and became smaller along with the cow demon's body, giving it no chance to escape. Everything would be over if they could really lock up Kirby's body. At this moment, it seemed that the ice lock was too tight, and one of the cow ghost's tails suddenly broke off. Qishuang was slightly stunned, and then sneered, cut off the tail to survive. That's a good method, but it's a pity that it happened to me. He knew Kirby's background very well, and this method of escaping by cutting off the tail was his specialty. Then, he suddenly contracted the ice lock and immediately wrapped the broken octopus tail tightly and deeply embedded it into the flesh, strangling it into a big hemp twist. As for the cow ghost whose body shrank rapidly and gradually recovered its human form, he did not let it go and was also tightly wrapped by the shrunken ice lock. At the same time, the time limit of paradise passed, and the cloud ninjas on the ship woke up and turned around and saw Kirby locked by the cold chain on the sea. Everyone rubbed their eyes in disbelief and tried to dispel the illusion. Only then did they confirm that they were not mistaken, and Lord Kirby was indeed captured. Go and help. Someone shouted, and immediately jumped off the deck. He didn't know what had just happened, but supporting Lord Kirby was the top priority. With a call, countless cloud ninjas rushed off the deck and rushed towards Qishuang on the sea, launching a long-range attack. Humph. Qishuang snorted coldly and just stomped his feet lightly, injecting chakra into his feet, and a wave of tens of meters high and more than 100 meters long surged up and condensed into an ice wall across the sea, completely blocking the cloud ninjas and their long-range attacks on the other side. It was just an ordinary condensation of water into ice, and he didn't even need to deliberately cast a spell. It was enough to deal with these people. Boom boom boom. The attacks of the crowd fell on the ice wall, leaving no trace, and the ice wall stood still. How is it possible? Everyone was shocked. That person's casual attack made them helpless, which was too terrifying. Ignoring the Kirby who was locked by multiple ice chains, Qishuang dragged the tightly bound octopus tail to his side and said to him, how long are you going to hide in there? If you don't come out, I will kill you. 1 breath, 2 breaths. 3 breaths passed, and the octopus tail still did not respond. Looking at the many cloud ninjas who were climbing over the ice wall one after another, Qishuang sneered, in this case, don't blame me for being rude. After that, he slowly turned his fingers, and one hand seal after another began to change. Wait. At this moment, a head wearing sunglasses came out from the broken part of the octopus tail. Seeing this, Qishuang immediately stopped the action of making seals and slightly raised the corners of his mouth. That was Kirby hiding in the octopus tail. As for the other guy locked by him, it was naturally a substitute. At the same time, Kirby, who had revealed his true form, no longer maintained the extra stand. He immediately turned into an octopus with a bang. Qishuang glanced at the rapidly approaching cloud ninjas and said meaningfully, tell them not to get closer, otherwise you know what the consequences will be. Hearing this, Kirby shouted to the people who came to support him, stop, don't get closer. Hearing this familiar voice, everyone subconsciously stopped. Then, one person shouted, Lord Kirby, we can't just leave you alone. Yes, we will definitely rescue you. Everyone was full of fighting spirit and confidence. Don't come over. This guy is very strong. Ordinary people are not his opponent at all. You will only die in vain if you act rashly. Kirby reminded again loudly. Although he was so easily caught because of the other party's sneak attack, it was impossible for ordinary people to succeed in the sneak attack with his strength. This also reflects from the side that this person's strength is terrifyingly strong. Even if he was given another chance to fight fairly, he felt that he would not have much confidence in winning the battle. At the same time, Nanashi also took off the Samehada from behind, tentatively gestured on Kirby's head, and said to the Cloud Ninjas, I advise you to listen to him obediently, otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. You dare. Lord Kirby is the brother of Lord Drakage. If you hurt him, Lord Drakage will never let you go of the Hidden Mist Village. A Cloud Ninja shouted fiercely. I really don't dare to kill him, but it's not difficult to torture him. Nanashi replied coldly, not hiding his threat. Then what do you want to release a Lord Kirby? Another Cloud Ninja asked loudly. Retreat. Let your Akage come to the Hidden Mist Village to redeem him. Nanashi said to them on his own, and put the Samehada on the top of Kirby's head, and secretly gave him an order to absorb the opponent's chakra. Then, a warm chakra energy was transmitted from Samehada's handle into his body. Samehada also sent back a very happy thought to him. Just like the story he had read in his previous life, Samehada liked the chakra on Kirby very much. However, this kind of liking is the liking of a predator for its prey, and it is different from liking the holder. Therefore, Samehada will not betray the holder casually, just because he likes Kirby's chakra. As the chakra was sucked away, the bound octopus tail turned into nothingness, and the tightened cold chain was firmly locked on Kirby. Earlier, because there was a layer of octopus tail outside, Kirby could still move a little despite being locked by the cold chain, but now, he can't move at all. Because the chakra was sucked away in large quantities, his spirit became listless, like a deflated ball, and he had no ability to resist at all. On the other side, hearing Nana Frost's words, the Cloud Ninjas were furious. You want to blackmail Lord Drakage? You're just dreaming. Yes, it's just wishful thinking. How do you know that Drakage doesn't want to come if you don't go back and ask for instructions? If I remember correctly, Kirby is not only the Eight Tails Jinchuriki of Kirigakure, but also the sworn brother of the fourth Drakage. Nana Frost said to everyone with a playful look. Seeing that he was distracted, Kirby hurriedly shouted in his heart, Aha, lend me your chakra. Chapter 517 Forced to Retreat. HMM. The cow ghost responded, and immediately released his chakra from the sealed space, handing it over to Kirby for control. In an instant, a layer of red chakra coat appeared on Kirby's body again, and a manic breath burst out from him. Like a sleeping lion, it suddenly jumped out again. This sudden change scared Qishuang and many Cloud Ninjas. Hey, Kirby stabilized his position on the sea, concentrated his strength in his arms, and pushed out suddenly. Boom. He is proficient in lightning escape, and has a lot of experience in power burst, because lightning escape is a special type of escape technique. In just a moment, the power that burst out from him formed a fierce air wave, and a 4 or 5 meter high wave followed, which caught Qishuang off guard and flew out. Seeing this, the Cloud Ninjas cheered excitedly. Good job, Master Killer. I knew Master Killer would not be defeated so easily. Show that arrogant guy some color. At the same time, Killer, who was bound by the cold chain, and bursting with the chakra of the tailed beast, clenched his teeth, his eyes full of determination. I finally came out. How can I let my big brother worry? Come and clean up the mess in person. With a roar, he gathered all his strength and burst out his strongest power. Unfortunately, even though he used all his strength, the cold chain bound to his body was still intact, and not even a crack could be seen. Huh? What's going on? Killer was surprised. Don't waste your energy. A mocking voice came from not far away. He looked up and saw that it was the young Miss Ninja who could use ice escape coming over. The hardness of this ice chain is far beyond your imagination. Even the tailed beast can't break it, let alone you. Nana Shuang shook her head. Hearing this, Killer Bee's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Earlier, Miyagi told him that there was something wrong with the end of the cold chain, and it couldn't be dragged at all. In addition, Miyagi was pulled apart from all sides by 11 cold chains. He thought that Nyagi's posture was inconvenient, and he couldn't use his strength, so he couldn't break the cold chain to escape. After a long time, the cold chain itself has a terrible hardness. He is afraid that he is really finished this time. Qishuang walked closer quickly and pressed Samehada against Killer Bee again. While absorbing chakra, he sighed and said, "You are lucky. You have a good brother behind you and a powerful ninja village. Otherwise, all of you will die today." As far as he knows, the 4th generation Raikage of the Hidden Cloud Village has a very bad temper and is a tough iron-blooded faction. At the beginning, when the Hidden Cloud Village and Konoha were negotiating, an envoy from the Hidden Cloud Village took the opportunity to attack the heir of the main family of Hyuga, wanting to spy on the secret of the Byakugan. Unfortunately, he was discovered by the Hyuga family and killed on the spot. The 4th Raikage took the opportunity to cause trouble, threatening to restart the war, and wanted the Hyuga clan to die to apologize. In the end, he forced the younger brother of the Hyuga clan to die in his place, and only then did he settle the matter. Today, if Qishuang only wanted to be happy for a while, and slaughtered all the 2000 Kirigakure troops, the result can be imagined. What's worse is that the 4th Raikage is still a complete brother control, and he values his sworn brother more than anyone else. Once Killer Bee is killed, there is no possibility of easing the war between Kirigakure and Kirigakure. And with the current state of Kirigakure, it is impossible to resist the powerful Kirigakure. Even if he can fight 100, 1000, or even 110,000, it is still impossible to stop the full-scale attack of Kirigakure, and Kirigakure will inevitably be destroyed in the hands of Kirigakure. Therefore, Qishuang only captured Killer Bee alive, without hurting his life, and did not kill the other Kirigakure. He just needs to force the Kirigakure to retreat. At the same time, the Kumonin who thought that Killer Bee would be able to escape immediately were stunned when they saw that he struggled in vain. How is it possible? How can Lord Killer Bee not break the ice chain? Full of hope, but in the end it was all in vain. As Samehada drained the chakra from Killer Bee again, Nanish's chakra filled up again, and he was full of strength. However, the chakra of the tailed beast was too much, far more than he could bear. He could only pour the excess chakra into the sea, and the sea surface of nearly thousands of meters in radius soon froze with a thick layer of ice. Good sword, but it's a pity that it's not suitable for me. Looking at Samehada, whose body had grown several times because of the chakra of the 8 tails, Nanashi sighed softly. It took only a few breaths to drain the huge chakra of the tailed beast from Killer Bee. Such a sword is too terrifying. Such a terrifying ability, combined with the holder's superb swordsmanship, will surely produce a terrifying effect. Unfortunately, swordsmanship was not his forte. Samehada was a pearl in his hands. Then, he looked at the depressed Killer Bee and said, "With your reputation in Kirigakure, you should still be able to command this army and order a retreat. Then let your 4th Raikage come to Kirigakure in person to redeem the people. Otherwise, don't blame us for going on a killing spree." After that, he pointed to the distant coastline in a demonstrative manner. He believed that with the perception ability of the tailed beasts, they should be able to find the large number of ninja troops over there. Hearing this, Killer Bee looked over there weakly, but it was too far away, and he could not see anything. "Aha, did you find anything?" he asked silently in his heart. The Ushiki tried to sense it and hesitated. There are a lot of chakra reactions on the coast, at least thousands of people. Because it was too far away, it couldn't figure out what was going on over there, and only barely knew that there were a large number of ninjas gathered on the coast. It seems that they came prepared. The task that my brother gave me cannot be completed. Killer Bee sighed helplessly in his heart. Then, he looked at the other side of the cloud ninjas and said, "There are a large number of ninjas stationed on the coast. The plan to attack the Hidden Mist Village has completely failed. You will return to the Hidden Mist Village, and do not start a war again. As for other aftermath matters, leave them to my eldest brother to handle. But Lord Kiribee, we can't just leave you alone." Some cloud ninjas shouted unwillingly. Kiribee said helplessly, "You are not his opponent at all. If you cooperate with the ninja troops on the coast, once the war starts, you will all have no way to survive. If you really want to save me, hurry back to the village to report. The Hidden Mist Village dare not go to war with our Hidden Mist Village. I will not be in any danger for the time being." But, the cloud ninjas were still unwilling. No buts, this is my order. Kiriba's cynical face in the past rarely showed a trace of seriousness. Yes, Lord Kiribi. Seeing him give the order, the cloud ninjas had no choice but to glare at Qishuang hatefully, silently return to their respective ships, turn the bows, and go north. At this point, Qishuang finally breathed a sigh of relief. A war that was about to break out was thus averted. Let's go. I'll take you to our hidden mist village to have some fun for a few days. He cut off the connection between the cold chain and the seawater, carried Samehada on his back, and slowly walked towards the coast with Killer B on his shoulder. Chapter 518, Unresolved. On the coast, the Mist Ninjas were delighted to see Nanoshuan take down the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki in no time. When they saw the Kirigakure ship turn around and leave, they were even more delighted and hugged each other with joy. They completely forgot their hatred for each other. They didn't have to bite the bullet and fight 2,000 enemies with only 500 people. Looking at the group of people who were happy to welcome him, Nanoshuang immediately threw Kiribi on his shoulder and told the two people who held Kiribi, "Watch him carefully, don't let anyone touch him." Yes. The two agreed without hesitation. It was not until then that Kiribi realized that among the many Mist Ninjas on the shore, many faces appeared repeatedly several times. Clone. He suddenly realized something. Yes, it's a clone. Nanoshuang looked at him playfully and then winked at everyone. Then, the Mist Ninjas understood and released the clone technique, and the huge ninja army of more than 1,000 people suddenly shrank by nearly 2/3. Including the original garrison ninjas, there were only a little over 500. Why do you regret ordering a retreat? Seeing Kiriba's changing face, Qishuang asked with a smile. No, I was just deceived by you, and I'm a little unhappy. Kiribi snorted. If he insisted on ordering the Cloud Ninjas to attack, he could certainly destroy the Mist Ninjas of only about 500 people, but facing this terrifying guy, the Cloud Ninjas would definitely suffer heavy casualties, and I don't know how many people would be left. Retreat is inevitable. But he was actually fooled by the opponent's mere clone technique, which was really embarrassing to say. You are a bit knowledgeable, otherwise both of us would not be able to end it peacefully today. Patting his broad shoulders, Qishuang instructed everyone again. Mission accomplished. Retreat. Hearing this, everyone cheered. What about us? The Mist Ninjas who were originally responsible for the garrison and alert surrounded him. You. Qishuang thought for a moment and said to them solemnly, the reorganization of Kirigakure is imminent, and the garrison personnel will definitely be rearranged. However, this is not something that can be completed immediately. You still need to be stationed here for vigilance and must not leave your post without permission. But the three parties have signed a ceasefire agreement and everyone belongs to Kirigakure. You no longer need to guard your own place, and so many people are not needed here. I suggest that you three parties take turns on duty and those who are free go back to the village to help. Yes, Lord Qishuang. The three garrison ninjas agreed in unison. Then, the leaders of the three garrison ninjas went down to discuss the rotation. As for how they rotated, Qishuang was not interested in intervening. He only needed to give them a solution. Let's go. After a greeting, Qishuang led the 500 ninja troops back along the original route. Everyone talked and laughed along the way, and was very excited. With the strength of 500 people, they easily scared away 2,000 Cloud Ninjas, which was enough to brag to others for the rest of their lives. Even in the history of Kirigakure, there has never been such a glorious victory. Unfortunately, before they reached the entrance of the village, a masked Anbu Kirigakure stopped them. Greetings, Master Qishuang. The man knelt down in front of Qishuang. What's the matter? Qishuang frowned and asked. It must be no good to intercept them halfway. The man didn't say anything, but quickly took out an envelope from his pocket and handed it over. Qishuang took it suspiciously and then opened it and saw that it was a handwritten letter from Meditarumi, and the ink on it was not dry yet. In the Southern Sea area, several unknown ninja villages have gathered 3,000 ninjas to attack. If you return victorious, you will rush to the Southern Sea area to support. After reading it, Qishuang crumpled the letter into a ball with a dark face and stuffed it into his pocket. The hidden cloud village is fine, but even these unknown ninja villages dare to take advantage of the fire to rob. They are really impatient to live. Everyone, go at full speed and rush to the Southern Sea area with me. he shouted and rushed out in one step. Hearing the displeasure in his tone, everyone didn't dare to say a word and quickly followed. About 20 minutes later, when they were about to reach the southern coast, they faintly heard a familiar explosion coming from the front. That was the sound of the detonating tag exploding. There were people fighting in front. Moreover, judging from the scale of the sound, there were quite a few people. Everyone couldn't help but feel depressed. As they got closer to the coastline, the vegetation became sparser and the vision gradually widened. When everyone rushed out of the jungle, they could see clearly that there were thousands of people fighting on the coastline. Judging from the emblems on both sides, one side was their fellow Kirigakure ninjas, about 1,500 people. The other side was some messy miscellaneous ninjas. The Kirigakure ninjas didn't recognize the emblems on them at all. They didn't know which ninja was trained in that corner. However, their number was far greater than their own Kirigakure ninjas, about 3,000 people. Fortunately, although they were numerous, their quality was uneven and could not be compared with the ninjas of Kirigakure. Although the Kirigakure was at a disadvantage, they still managed to resist their offensive and dragged them to the coastline. However, that was the result of the battle at the cost of the lives of many Kirigakure ninjas. Qishuang's eyes turned red when she saw this, and she shouted angrily, "Pass the order down. Everyone withdraw from the battlefield. I'm going to kill people." Kirigakure finally settled down after many twists and turns. Now is the time to recuperate. The remaining Kirigakure ninjas are the intermediate forces for rebuilding the village in the future, and are very valuable population resources. Now, being consumed little by this group of unknown ninjas here, it really makes him angry. Yes. Several Kirigakure ninjas next to him also left in a hurry with red eyes. The internal Malaying Kirigakure is their own business, but this group of unknown foreign ninjas also come to interfere. That's not okay. As Qishuang's orders were passed to every corner of the battlefield, the Kirigakure ninjas retreated, and the ninjas from both sides, who were fighting together, gradually separated. Seeing that there were almost no people on the sea, Qishuang rushed to the sea in an instant. Senjutsu Ice Release Eternal Ice Coffin Chakra was injected into the seawater under his feet, and a layer of solid ice suddenly formed on the surface of the water. In an instant, the unknown ninjas in the seawater with a radius of nearly 1,000 meters were suddenly frozen in the so-called eternal ice layer. With just one strike, nearly a quarter of the enemies were cleared. If Qishuang had not suppressed part of his strength for fear of hurting his own people, and if the opponents were not too scattered, and the battlefield area was too wide, the results of this strike would have at least doubled. At the same time, many unknown ninjas who escaped the disaster were terrified. How is it possible? How can a person have such a terrifying power? Is he a human or a ghost? On the coast, the morale of the Miss Ninjas was greatly boosted. The arrival of Master Qishuang can completely declare their victory in this war. They were really too aggrieved in this battle. Once upon a time, the Hidden Mist Village, known as one of the 5 major ninja villages, had fallen to this point, and even these unknown ninjas dared to bully the Land of Water. They are really tired of living. Chapter 519, Snake Power. After biting his finger, Qishuang drew a bloody mark on the palm of his right hand. After forming a seal like flowing water, he pressed his palm on the ice under his feet. Summoning technique, the black rune formation spread around the ice surface, accompanied by the white smoke rising, and 2 huge figures loomed. Whoosh! The sea breeze blew, the smoke dissipated, and 2 giant snakes, one red and one purple, appeared in front of everyone. The red one was slightly smaller, about 40 meters long, and looked like a one-eyed snake. The purple one was larger, more than 50 meters long, and had 2 horns on its head. The 2 giant snakes exuded a cold and fierce aura, and they definitely didn't look like good people. The ninjas who didn't know that they couldn't help but feel sympathetic and frightened when they saw it, and some of them even began to tremble in their calves and had the intention of retreating. They regretted coming to the Land of Water. They thought that after hearing that the civil war in Kirigakure had caused heavy casualties, they would gather together the various ninja forces and take advantage of the situation to destroy Kirigakure village and divide up the Land of Water. Who would have thought that just over 1,000 Miss Ninjas would stop them on the coastline, making it difficult for them to advance. Now, there is even such a terrifying guy to support them, and he has summoned 2 terrifying giant snakes. It is hard to say whether they can escape unscathed today. Boy, I said I would not fight for humans. Have you forgotten? Zinaya narrowed his eyes and stared at the young man in white above the head of Wansh. But I'm not a human now. I'm an immortal from Langdi Cave. Qishuang glanced at it coldly. Hearing the displeasure in the tone, Wansh did not dare to say a word. The moment it was summoned, it found that Qishuang's breath was not right, and it was very close to several immortals. Looking more carefully, didn't it enter the state of immortalization? Especially after being taught a lesson in Langdi Cave, it now has no intention of resisting, and it is better to obey orders honestly. Only Zinaya, the thorny head, has not changed his temper for a while, even though his reverse scales have been pulled out, and he is still so presumptuous. So what if I'm an immortal? Do you think I'm afraid of you? Zinaya shouted angrily, and immediately opened his mouth, and sprayed a mouthful of turbid venom at Qishuang. You're shameless. Qishuang immediately jumped out from the top of one snake's head, and punched Zinaya's head. One snake slightly turned sideways, and avoided the venom. Because his body was too huge and Qishuang's body was too small, it was difficult for Zinaya to evade his attack. Or in other words, when Qishuang became an immortal, his speed was greatly improved, and Zinaya had no chance to evade at all. That punch hit the top of its head without any fancy moves. Boom. A heavy force fell on the top of his head, and Zinaya suddenly felt stars in his eyes, his neck sank, and his chin hit the ice, and he fainted immediately. At the same time, those unknown ninjas were extremely nervous after discovering that Qishuang summoned two giant snakes at once. But when they found that the giant red snake did not listen to the command and fought with the summoner, everyone couldn't help laughing. However, when they thought they could see a battle between the summoned beast and the summoner, the giant snake that looked extremely scary was suddenly knocked down on the ice by the summoner's punch. Everyone couldn't laugh anymore. The Miss Ninjas, who were originally worried about Qishuang, secretly breathed a sigh of relief after seeing the giant red snake being knocked down by a blow. However, everyone couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. The summoned beast of Lord Qishuang is a little unreliable. Standing on Zinaya's head, Qishuang ordered the purple snake, Wansh, kill all those guys except the Mist Ninjas. Can I eat it? Wansh asked while spitting out his snake tongue. Qishuang glanced at the many unknown ninjas coldly, and then said, eat as much as you want. However, I suggest you don't eat too much, preferably not more than 9. Wansh, who was about to eat heartily, stopped immediately after hearing the second half of the words, turned his head, and asked in confusion, why 9? Qishuang looked at it with interest and said, I summoned Lady Xiangxin Shenji to help today, and I will send her 10 sacrifices later. Tell me, what will happen if the lady knows that you eat more than her? Hearing this, Wansh's heart actually twitched several times. If those petty women knew that he ate more than them, he would be beaten again. Then I'll eat 9, no more, no less. Wansh muttered, and immediately rushed towards the group of unknown ninjas. Seeing the giant snake attack, everyone was terrified. The size was really terrifying. Like a mountain. Even if you use your toes to imagine, you can tell that being scratched by that size is not something that ordinary people can bear. Don't be afraid. That psychic knocked down the red snake with one punch. No matter how strong this purple snake is, it's not that strong. We don't have to be afraid of it at all. The ninja who looked like a leader shouted to encourage everyone. Yes, yes, this purple snake must be a fake. Someone immediately followed up. Kill. Another leader took the lead and rushed forward, and his companions performed ninjutsu behind him to cover. Earth escape earth flow wall earth escape earth flow wall. In an instant, 5 or 6 earth walls rose from the ground, blocking the way of the snakes. Humph. The snakes snorted disdainfully, and rammed into it without blinking. Boom boom boom. 5 or 6 earth walls were broken in an instant, and were easily smashed by the snakes like tofu, and they couldn't even slow down its speed. This is impossible. The leading ninja leader was shocked when he saw the giant snake breaking through the wall. He regretted being too reckless. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine in the world. The speed of the snake is very fast. Although it is not as fast as the immortal Qishuang, it is not much worse than ordinary ninjas. Speed and strength are its strengths. It is like a purple lightning, and it arrived in front of the leading ninja leader in the blink of an eye. As for the other colorful ninjutsu, they all fell on the open space behind and did not hit it at all. There is no skill, and no need for any skill. The snake rushed straight through with its huge body and strength. The ninja leader had no way to avoid it, and was hit on the top of his head by it, and then crashed into the crowd behind. I don't know whether he is alive or dead. In an instant, a scream of crying for parents came from the crowd. The gap between imagination and reality is too big. They saw Qishuang easily knock down the red giant snake with one punch, and thought that this purple giant snake was just like that. However, when their weapons landed on the bodies of the snakes, they found that even with all their strength, they could only leave shallow scratches on the scales of the other party, and it was impossible to cause fatal damage to it. On the other hand, the purple giant snake, relying on its huge body and strength, rushed through the crowd, knocking people and horses to the ground wherever it went, and no one could stop it. Any ninja that was touched by it, even if they were lucky enough not to die, would be seriously injured. The situation of the battle took a sharp turn for the worse. Tomorrow, the story of the next volume will begin. To be honest, I don't like writing this kind of plot of killing weak chickens. It feels meaningless, but everyone's taste seems to be the opposite of mine. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 520, Returning Home, End of Volume. The ninja forces, which were a mixture of small ninja forces from all sides, had little cohesion. After experiencing the terrifying baptism of ice escape and giant snakes, their morale collapsed immediately. The ninjas scattered in a hurry, no longer having the idea of destroying the hidden mist village and dividing the land of water. They only thought about how to escape from this dangerous battlefield. Seeing the collapse of the enemy's morale, the fighting spirit of the mist ninjas became more and more high. They seized the opportunity to launch a counterattack and cooperated with the offensive of the 10,000 snakes to beat the invading ninjas to pieces and flee. Seeing the enemy's defeat, Qishuang no longer had the desire to attack again. After a day of fighting, even as a sage, he was a little overwhelmed. Although he used Samehada to get enough chakra supplements from the Eight Tails, the mental fatigue was something that chakra could not eliminate. He needed to rest. At the same time, Zinya under his feet also woke up. Damn boy, I'm going to eat you alive. Looking at the young man in white above his head, Zinya was furious. Shut up. Unfortunately, Qishuang didn't even bother to look at it and just stomped his foot hard, knocking it unconscious again. Wanch, who was not far away, shuddered when he saw it. Fortunately, he had foresight, otherwise he would have been beaten like Zinya. In less than 5 minutes, the unknown ninjas on the entire coastal front were either dead, escaped or captured, leaving a large number of corpses on the coast, and the war was completely settled. Seeing that many mist ninjas were chasing farther and farther, Qishuang hurriedly ordered the mist ninjas closest to him, tell them to stop chasing, clean up the battlefield, gather the troops and prisoners, and prepare to return to the village. Yes, Lord Qishuang. Several people responded and immediately rushed to their companions who were chasing the enemy. At this moment, Wanch swam over, spitting out snakes and saying, "If you don't have anything else to do, then I'll go back." Qishuang thought for a moment and said, "Since you are going back to Langdi Cave, then help me take the offerings of Lady Xiangx and Shenji with you." As he said that, he jumped off Zinya's head and landed next to an unknown ninja who was frozen in ice. Release. He made a seal with one hand and shouted softly, and immediately saw the ice layer on the 10 human-shaped ice sculptures around him slowly shatter, leaving only the hands and feet still frozen in the ice. Who? The 10 ninjas who had just escaped from the trap shivered and gasped heavily, their faces filled with the joy of escaping death. It was really uncomfortable to be frozen in there. Not only could they not breathe, but they were also very uncomfortable from the cold. Achoo. Some people had already sneezed, and in just a short while, they were frozen to the point of catching a cold. Then, Qishuang controlled the ice to split, separated a person from the ice, and carried him to Wanch. Sensing that something was wrong, the man burst into tears and said, "This ninja from Kirigakure, we were wrong. We will never dare to harass the land of water again. Please forgive us. Qishuang pressed him on Wanxi's body and said coldly, since you are wrong, you must pay the price. This is the territory of Kirigakure. You can't come and go as you please. As he said that, he circulated chakra in his palm, and after changing the nature of ice, he turned the chakra into cold air and froze it on Wanxi's body. Wanxi immediately understood that Qishuang was going to let it take these offerings back when it lifted the summoning technique and returned. Sir, we really realize our mistakes. Please forgive us. The rest of the people begged for mercy, but Qishuang ignored them and froze them one by one on the purple snake with an expressionless face. Although they didn't know what the other party was going to do, staying with such a terrifying giant snake would definitely not be a good thing. Okay, remember to say hello to the 4 adults for me. After instructing Wanxi, Qishuang quickly formed a set of hand seals. Release. As the white smoke rose, the 2 giant snakes, one purple and one red, disappeared, and with them disappeared the 10 captives frozen on Wanxi. After this battle, the Mist Ninjas admired the strength of this master Qishuang even more. It was really too powerful. It was like a myth that he could easily change the direction of a battle. It was so powerful that it was incredible. Not long after, the Mist Ninjas who were chasing the enemy also came back one after another. After receiving the order to stop chasing, the entire coastal battlefield was also cleared, leaving only a piece of floating ice near the shore, and everyone was helpless. Master Qishuang, what should we do with those guys who are frozen in the ice? A leader of the Mist Ninja bravely stepped forward and asked. Qishuang thought for a while and slowly said, let them drift around the oceans and become a group of lonely ghosts to warn those who have improper thoughts about my Mist Ninja. After that, he gathered chakra in his palm and pressed it on the ice. Everyone only felt a slight vibration on the ice surface and then saw an ice column with a diameter of about 5 meters slowly rising in the center of the floating ice. Looking closely again, there was a line of large characters clearly engraved on it. Mist Ninja Qishuang killed the enemy in the southern sea of the water country and left this as a memory. Then, everyone found that the part of the ice connected to the coast cracked, and the entire floating ice area began to drift slowly to the deep sea with the rippling of the sea water. The leader of the Mist Ninja asked cautiously, Master Qishuang, if we exile them to the sea like this, will they be rescued by others? Who do you think I am? Is my ice so easy to break? Qishuang gave him a fierce look and said, looking at the entire ninja world, there are only a handful of people who can break my ice. As for others, it's just a daydream. Even if it is his ordinary ice, the one who can break it must be a famous strong man in the entire ninja world. What's more, what he used to freeze these people now is the fairy art, which is the so-called eternal ice. Except for those few powers, no one can break it. Seeing his confidence, the leader of the Mist Ninja did not dare to say anything else and had to shut up silently. After arranging the Mist Ninjas stationed on guard, Qishuang shouted to everyone, everyone listen to my order, follow me home. Hearing this, everyone was stunned at first, and then they realized that the master was talking about returning to the village. Since the civil war began, the entire Mist village has been reduced to ruins. Everyone was homeless, and the blood and killing made their hearts even colder. They almost forgot the warm word home. At this moment, hearing this long lost word, everyone couldn't help but think of their dead companions, relatives, and friends. For a moment, the long suppressed emotions couldn't help but burst out, and they burst into tears and cried, let's go home. Go home. We can go home. From then on, there was a strange floating ice in the ninja world that buried many ninjas. Curious people touched it and tried to break it, but they couldn't destroy it at all. Then one after another, more people came to try, but it was still in vain. Instead, the floating ice seemed more terrifying, and the name left on the floating ice also spread. Although only heard of the name but not seen, the whole ninja world knew that a terrible strong man had appeared in the hidden mist. Chapter 521, 100 Wastes. When Qishuang woke up again, it was already early morning outside. He returned with his troops victoriously. After hastily arranging many matters, he found an unused tent and fell asleep. After leaving the tent, he immediately called a guard not far away. How long have I slept? Rubbing his empty stomach, he looked at the guard and asked in confusion. His stomach was so hungry that he felt that he could eat up a whole cow. He didn't know how long he had slept. "You have slept for a day and 2 nights, Lord Qishuang." The guard bowed his head respectfully and replied, "So long? No wonder I feel so hungry," he said with a wry smile. "Where can I get food?" he asked again. The guard whispered, 200 meters to the east, there is a newly built temporary canteen. Where is Lord Mizukage? Qishuang wanted to ask directly where Ming was, but suddenly realized that this was not appropriate, so he quickly changed the address. A piece of open space has been temporarily cleared over the Mizukage building, and an office has been temporarily built. Lord Mizukage is working there. The guard's tone was much lighter. Mizukage is the core of Kirigakure. With the Mizukage's dispatch, the entire Kirigakure can carry out its work in an orderly manner. "Okay, I'll go over and take a look later." Qishuang nodded and left immediately. Right now, the most important thing is to fill her rumbling stomach first. Walking on the way to the temporary cafeteria, all she saw was ruins and a desolate scene. On both sides of the road, there were still many Kirigakure ninjas and ordinary people cleaning up the ruins, digging out one unrecognizable corpse after another. This is to prevent the spread of the plague. The geographical environment of Kirigakure is relatively humid and hot, which is very suitable for the breeding of bacteria and viruses. If the bodies of the many victims buried under the ruins are not handled as soon as possible, once an epidemic breaks out, I'm afraid that the area within 100 miles will become a dead land. Furthermore, if you want to reuse this land, you must first clean up these garbage and corpses. No one wants to live on a pile of ruins and corpses. Sir Nana Shuang. Sir Nana Shuang. Seeing Nana Shuang passing by, everyone who was busy stopped their work and bowed their heads. At this time in the Kirigakure village, there may still be people who don't know the Mizukage, but there is absolutely no one who doesn't know this powerful man. It was he who almost single-handedly pacified the Kirigakure war and repelled the invading ninja forces. Nana Shuang nodded, smiled back, and quickly disappeared at the end of the road. After finding a temporary cafeteria and having a full meal, he came to the ruins of the former Mizukage building and found the location of the current Mizukage's office. It was a huge tent covering an area of nearly 50 square meters. The guards outside the tent recognized him and did not deliberately stop him. Nana Shuang walked straight in. "How is the situation recently? Is there anything big happening?" Looking at the blue-dressed beauty who was frowning and reviewing documents behind the desk, he asked with a smile. Hearing this familiar voice, Meditarumi's frown relaxed. Looking up, it was indeed Qishuang. "You finally woke up. I thought you were going to sleep until tomorrow," she joked with a smile. Qishuang shrugged and replied, "If I hadn't been awakened by hunger, I might have been able to sleep until tomorrow." "How is it? Nothing happened these 2 days?" he asked again. Meditarumi shook her head helplessly, pounded her shoulders again, and glanced at the thick pile of documents on the table, curling her lips and saying, "There are no particularly important things, but there are really a lot of messy things. I'm almost worried to death. Let me see." Qishuang stepped forward quickly and quickly browsed through all the documents. All of them were various requests and suggestions handed in from below, all personnel dispatch and material distribution. It was a mess, involving various departments and all walks of life, from border defense dispatch to ruins cleanup arrangements. It can be said that the content of this pile of documents almost covers every aspect of the entire Kirigakure. Originally, the Mizukage was not so busy, but now Kirigakure is completely destroyed, and the entire government system has completely collapsed, and has not been repaired yet, which has resulted in almost all the burdens being placed on the shoulders of Medi alone. I think you should first build the framework of the various departments of Kirigakure, and divide the rights and responsibilities. You can't handle so many government affairs at all. Nana Shuang put down the last document and shook her head. I thought so too, but there were too many government affairs backlogs, so I thought about dealing with some of them first, and then making arrangements, and I forgot all about it when I was busy. Meditarumi smiled self-deprecatingly. From yesterday to now, the various government affairs have not only not decreased, but there are signs that they are increasing, which almost drove her crazy. Qishuang pinched her chin, thinking and saying, I suggest that you arrange the ministers of each department first, and let them decide on the specific department establishment for the time being. Wait until everything is stable, then you can slowly adjust the internal structure of each department. For now, let's get the entire government system of the Hidden Mist Village up and running first. Terumi Medi nodded, and said in agreement, well, let's do as you say. But what position should I arrange for you? As she said that, she looked at the young man in white beside her, and showed a thoughtful look. Qishuang's ability is obvious to all. I believe no one will be dissatisfied if she is assigned a position. I'll stay by your side as an assistant. That way I can better exert my ability. A single department will limit my performance. Qishuang shook her head. Astronomy, geography, political science, these all-encompassing things were regular courses in his previous life. Although in that era, when everyone was like a dragon, these were nothing, and they were far inferior to the elites in all walks of life. But in this world with low quality education, what he has learned is enough to make him one of the most knowledgeable top talents in the world. Now, he can boast that he has the talent to rule the world and the ability to understand the past and the present. Hearing this, Terumi Medi's eyes became more colorful, and then she handed over a document at hand, and said with a smile, since you are so confident, why don't you help me solve the most important problem at the moment? Food shortage? Qishuang took it and saw it, and immediately understood the problem. Terumi stood up from the chair, paced back and forth in the tent and said, the Kirigakure village originally had a permanent population of nearly 500,000. Since the outbreak of the civil war, villagers have died or fled. Now, the only people left in Kirigakure, besides the ninjas, are their close relatives who did not become ninjas. The total number is about 20,000. However, as the news of the war is settled, those exiled villagers will surely return to Kirigakure slowly, and the population of the village will slowly recover. However, most of the food in the village was destroyed in the war, and the village cannot resume production in a short period of time, so it can only rely on the existing grain reserves. The problem of food shortage will naturally become more and more serious. Originally, the three of us each stored a large amount of strategic food, which could sustain us for a long time. Unfortunately, it was almost soaked by the Hashigaki families flooding Kirigakure. Now, it's difficult to even supply 20,000 people for a week. What do you think we should do? We can't compare to the ancients in terms of poetry and prose, but in terms of knowledge, any ordinary high school student would be at least at the level of a university scholar in ancient times. Take the counselors of the three kingdoms for comparison. We may not be as good as Zhujiang and Sima in military ability, but we are much better than them in mathematics, economics, astronomy, geography, etc. Our specific abilities may not be outstanding, but our comprehensive abilities are definitely at this level. I'm not exaggerating when I say that we are talented people who can control the world. It's just that everyone is like a dragon now, and no one is a dragon anymore. Chapter 522, Money Trouble, Part 1. Qishuang thought for a moment and said, our water country is surrounded by the sea, and has endless fishery resources. The food problem can be solved from the sea. Terumi Medi shook her head, and curled her lips. It is true, that our water country has abundant fisheries, but have you ever thought about how many fish we have to catch every day, to support 20,000 people, or even more, and more people in the future? How much manpower, material resources and time will be needed to catch so many fish? This method is not appropriate. Qishuang smiled, and said, who told you that I was going to cast a net to catch fish? Isn't it? Terumi Medi looked at him in surprise. Of course not. Qishuang raised the corner of her mouth and said proudly, even you have considered the efficiency of casting nets to catch fish. How could I forget this? I'm not talking about casting nets to catch small fish, but big fish. A big fish weighing more than 100 tons. Just one is enough for us to eat for a long time. A big fish weighing more than 100 tons. Terumi was stunned for a moment, as if she remembered something, and then she suddenly realized, are you talking about whales? Yes, it's a whale. Qishuang nodded. The ecosystem of this world is not much different from his previous life, and there are also huge monsters like whales in the sea. He continued, it is difficult for ordinary fishermen to hunt such big guys, but to ninjas, they are just slightly larger beasts. We only need to send out a team of 100 people to ambush in the waters where they often appear and let the sensory ninjas lock on their movements. When they float up to breathe, we can kill them. This way, we can save time and effort and meet everyone's food needs. That's a good idea. Terumi applauded and smiled like a flower. Then, she frowned and said, however, if we eat meat every day, I guess everyone will not be able to stand it. After all, our staple food is not meat. Qishuang thought and said, although the internal infrastructure of the Kirigakure village has been completely destroyed, the fields outside the village should not have been greatly affected. And the climate in my water country is humid and hot, and we can produce 2 seasons of rice a year. The rice planted this season should be harvested in 3 months. It's just that, because the villagers fled, and the fields were neglected, the harvest this season may be less. However, it should still be enough to support the lives of the villagers. When the rice is harvested this season, we should be able to completely get rid of the food crisis. Hearing this, Terumi's eyes lit up and said, if you hadn't said it, I almost forgot about it. Ninjas don't produce, so they often forget that the food they eat comes from the crops grown by ordinary villagers. Previously, she was still considering whether to go to the daimyo to cry about poverty and let the daimyo order the requisition of food from all over the country to support the Kirigakure village. Or, the village could raise funds and buy a large amount of food from outside. However, no matter which method is used, it is impossible to solve the problem permanently. Only when Kirigakure village resumes production and becomes self-sufficient can it truly get rid of the food crisis. However, there are still 3 months before the rice of this season matures. It's too long. In these 3 months, we still need to find additional ways to fill the food gap. Terumi said with a bitter face. Nanashiro crossed her arms and said, when we successfully capture the whale, we can reduce the personal supply of rice, mainly whale meat, and rice as a supplement. Open up Kirigakure's foreign trade routes, and cooperate with the food shipped in from outside. It should be enough to last until the rice matures this season. Remember, except for the elderly, children, and pregnant women who cannot work, all idle personnel must help clean up the ruins of Kirigakure's buildings, work in lieu of relief, and must not rely on the village's relief to live. With their help, cleaning up the ruins of Kirigakure's buildings should be much faster. Work in lieu of relief, no wages at all? Terumi asked tentatively. This method will undoubtedly speed up the cleanup of the ruins of Kirigakure, but it is full of threats, making her feel like a local tycoon exploiting the hard-working people. If you can give less money, give as little as possible. Qishuang sighed helplessly. Why? The village's current financial resources can fully support their wages. Terumi was puzzled. For Kirigakure before the war, if all its financial resources were distributed among a population of nearly 500,000, it would not be much, but now, if Kirigakure's financial resources were distributed among a mere 20,000 people, everyone would be rich. Qishuang patted her shoulder and said in a complicated tone, in the Hidden Mist village now, the least valuable thing is money. Many people have a handful of money in their hands. Whether it is what they left behind before, or what they fished out when clearing the ruins, the people have no shortage of money. What they lack is things that can be bought with money. Now, the Hidden Mist village has nothing. Maybe there will be no problems in the short term, but as life gradually stabilizes, the market economy will slowly recover, and transactions between people will become more and more frequent. And restoring the productivity of the Hidden Mist will not be a matter of a day or two. The market transactions will soon be in a situation of supply exceeding demand. By then, prices will begin to rise, and the more money people have in their hands, the higher the prices will rise. Maybe you can buy a loaf of bread with 1 teal today, but by then you may not be able to buy one with 100 teals. Terumi nodded as if she understood, and tentatively asked, according to what you said, we have to control the amount of money in the hands of the people, so that they hold as little money as possible? At least, that's the case before the production economy of the Hidden Mist is restored. Qishuang nodded. When supply is insufficient to meet demand, the amount of currency in the market must be reduced, otherwise it will cause inflation and lead to soaring prices. On the contrary, when supply exceeds demand, the amount of currency in the market should be increased to prevent prices from falling. This is the so-called economics. In his previous life, this was just a high school political course, which was very ordinary, but in this world with backward education, there are very few people who can clearly understand this. Otherwise, why is the Sand village, which is rich in sand gold, the poorest of the 5 major villages? There is no other reason, it just doesn't understand the market economy. No matter how much money there is, it is just a fat sheep in the eyes of the other 4 villages. Then can't we forcibly suppress prices and control price increases? Meditarumi was confused. As ninjas, when solving problems, they will use force most of the time. Especially when facing ordinary people, their force can play a decisive role. I believe that in the name of Kirigakure, everyone will definitely not dare to raise prices. Some things cannot be solved by force, my Mizukage. Qishuang sighed helplessly. Then, he patiently explained. Suppose, our Kirigakure village issued an order to force the bakery not to raise the price of bread. But there is a limited amount of bread, and there are many people who want to eat it. Who should the boss sell it to? Suppose Kirigakure stipulates that the price of bread is 1 teal each, and at this time there is a guy who definitely wants to eat bread and offers 5 teals each. Do you think the boss will sell it to someone else, or will he sell it to him? Market economy is a political course in high school. If you say it is not taught, you can consider facing the wall. Just this one subject, in the context of that era, is enough to boast of being a great talent for governing the world. To be honest, after Konoha village was destroyed by Nagato, it was in a similar situation. They still had people, but Kirigakure died a lot. But Kishimoto couldn't think so much, so there is almost no specific content about the reconstruction of Konoha in the story. Just repair the house, and then it's done. Is it really like that? Chapter 523, Money Trouble, Part 2. After hearing this, Meditarumi argued unwillingly, then we will issue another order, that buyers are not allowed to raise the price. Qishuang shook her head with a smile and said, buyers are not allowed to raise the price, and sellers are not allowed to raise the price. But there are only so many loaves of bread, and the number of buyers far exceeds the number of loaves of bread. So who should the bread be sold to? This. Meditarumi bit her lip and thought for a while, and then said, then let them line up to buy. First come first served. Qishuang looked at her serious look and smiled. In this way, the people at the end of the line will definitely not be able to buy bread. If, among these people, someone really wants to eat bread, how can he buy bread? Why not let him change seats with the people in front of him? Meditarumi waved her hand nonchalantly. Free change of seats. Qishuang smiled at her playfully. This. Meditarumi suddenly realized something and was speechless. Changing seats itself is not a big problem, but the number of loaves of bread is limited, and changing seats will result in the person who gave up the seat not being able to buy bread. Some people may laugh it off, but not everyone will. Everyone has selfish desires. This will lead to the generation of paid exchange. As a result, the person who finally bought the bread paid far more than the value of the bread itself, which invisibly increased the price of the bread. Seeing that she seemed to have understood, Qishuang continued, not only that, don't underestimate the brains of merchants. They will try every means to make more money. The position in the queue to buy things will eventually fall into their own control. In the end, they only need to attach the increased price of bread to the position in the queue, and they can also achieve the same goal. No matter what laws you issue, sellers will always find ways to charge extra fees, and buyers will also find ways to pay more money to suppress other competitors. This is the general trend of the market. You can't send ninjas to watch people's transactions one by one, right? After all, ninjas are a profession that is selected from 100. There may not be one ninja in 100 ordinary people. Only in this ninja village, the proportion of ninjas will appear very high. Even so, the ratio of ordinary people to ninjas is not 1 to 1. The number of ordinary people is far greater than that of ninjas. Besides, in addition to daily training, ninjas also need to patrol, guard the border, and perform missions. How can they have so much free time to watch ordinary people's trading activities? Using force to suppress prices is a stupid method in itself. Because thousands of years of civilization history in the past have taught future generations with bloody lessons, economic problems can only be solved by economic means. What will happen if prices continue to soar? Meditarumi asked solemnly. Qishuang let out a long sigh and said, the result is that the money in people's hands is becoming less and less valuable. Things that could be bought with 1 or 2 taels originally require more money to buy. People's purchasing power will drop greatly. To put it simply, they will become poorer and poorer. And the seller and the buyer are not fixed roles. A merchant who sells bread is also a customer who buys flour to make bread. As the price of bread increases, the prices of raw materials such as flour will also increase. When bread is so expensive that it can no longer be sold, it is doomed to lose money and never be able to sell it again. And the bread merchants can't sell it, and those merchants who sell flour and other raw materials won't be able to sell them either, and the noodle shops that make flour will also go bankrupt. Just like detonating tags strung together, they will produce a chain reaction and explode one after another, and finally the whole thing will explode into nothingness, and the market economy will completely collapse. And at this point, the people can no longer live a stable life in the hidden mist village. Do you think they will continue to live here? After listening to his narration, Terumi couldn't help but shudder. But when she came to her senses, she felt that it was an exaggeration to say that a small price increase would cause the villagers of Kirigakure to alienate themselves and be forced to move away. What you said is too scary. Even I find it hard to believe. She shook her head with a sympathetic look. Qishuang shrugged helplessly and said, you will see the signs soon. Kirigakure was destroyed, and production could not be restored for a while. As the trade routes were reopened, merchants from other cities poured in, but they could not meet the needs of this vast market for the time being, and the result was definitely a surge in prices. However, the situation you mentioned cannot be ignored, and the workers' wages cannot be ignored. So what should we do? Terumi asked seriously. She was already the Mizukage of Kirigakure, and she could not just rely on her intuition to do things. Although the price problem Qishuang mentioned was incredible, it was clear and logical, and she could not completely ignore it. It is better to be prepared than to do nothing. Qishuang thought for a while, pinched her chin and said, why don't we issue bonds to the workers? Issuing bonds? Terumi was a little confused. This was a word she had never heard of before. It's just IOUs. Qishuang scratched his head and thought of an easy to understand explanation. Oh, Terumi suddenly realized. By keeping accounts by IOUs, workers' wages were not lost, and the amount of money in the hands of the people was limited. It was indeed a good idea. In addition, we'd better reduce the escort fees for caravans coming to Kirigakure. Attracting more caravans to Kirigakure to sell goods, the competition between merchants will be greater, which will also have a suppressive effect on prices, and it can also ease the material pressure of Kirigakure in all aspects. Qishuang added another point. Kirigakure is now short of everything, even tables, chairs, benches, pots, and pans. The arrival of various merchants can not only fill the gaps in materials, but also drive the market economy. If market transactions are not based on the principle of fairness and justice, forced buying and selling will damage the market and disrupt the economic order of Kirigakure. He even wanted to propose to ask the daimyo for an order to forcibly mobilize the rich families and business companies in various cities to fill the gaps in Kirigakure. Well, that's fine. Terumi nodded and quickly returned to her seat. While writing furiously, she said, I will send out the notice about the whaling mission and the reduction of the caravan escort fee. But, then again, whaling requires extremely strong deep water combat capabilities. Do you think I should send Hashigaki's ninjas or Hazuki's ninjas? Hashigaki and Hazuki's ninjas are both very good at water battles. If there had been no civil war, one side could have just transferred a group of people to carry out the whaling mission. But the civil war had just ended, and there were inevitably some conflicts between the ninjas of each side. Joint action was not appropriate, and it would take a long time to smooth out the rifts between the parties. At the moment, it would be more appropriate to transfer only one side's personnel. However, she was a little undecided. Qishuang listened and said nonchalantly, this is not the only whaling mission. Why don't we let the two families take turns to carry it out? But, let Kizuna send someone for the first time. I happen to be going to Kizuna's house, so I can bring the mission scroll over for you. Okay. Terumi nodded, and then wrote a note under the scroll of the whaling mission, that Kizuna would be responsible for the execution. Chapter 524 Prisoners, Part 1. After taking the mission scroll signed by Meitarumi, Nanashi left the temporary office of the Mizukage. Soon, he saw Hoshigaki Kisame and Killer Bee, who were locked in the square by him with cold chains. Because ordinary prisons could not hold these two dangerous guys, and to prevent anyone from rescuing them, Nanashi had to temporarily lock them outside with the Forbidden God chain. However, in order to facilitate care, he unfrozen Hoshigaki Kisame's body and locked his feet and waist with 3 cold chains. As for Killer Bee, there was an additional cold chain on each of his arms, a total of 5 cold chains locked. To be precise, it was not locked, but more like frozen, because Nanashi froze the interlocking cold chains on the 2 of them, and the cold chains in the body were integrated, and it was impossible for outsiders to untie them. Yo idiot, bastard, you finally showed up. Seeing him coming, Killer Bee immediately sang. Kisame sat quietly on the ground, leaning against the frozen bronze tripod. He glanced at him casually, then turned his head away without saying a word. The mist ninjas who were in charge of guarding saluted one after another. Hello, Master Nanashiro. Hello, Master Nanashiro. Nanashiro nodded, pointed at the 2 and asked, did anyone try to save them? The oldest mist ninja bowed and replied, from the night before yesterday to last night, unknown people came to try to save people, but they couldn't unlock your cold chain at all, and finally all returned empty-handed. Do you know who they are? Nanashiro asked curiously, while looking at the 2 prisoners. Kiribee was cheerful and still looked lively, with no major problems. Hoshigaki Kisame was a little worse, perhaps because of the severe injury of his broken arm. His whole spirit was a little sluggish. I guess it should be a spy planted in our village by Qimogakure. The mist ninja glanced at Kiribee and said, those unknown ninjas who tried to save people were targeting the 8-Tails Jinchuriki, so he concluded that they might be spies from Qimogakure. A spy from Qimogakure? That's really annoying. Qishuang sighed. Spies are a type of people that can never be eliminated, just like they have planted a lot of spies in the other 4 villages. After all, the total population of the 5 major ninja villages is very large, often hundreds of thousands of people. For example, the most powerful Konoha has a total population of nearly 1 million. With so many people, there are good and bad people, and no ninja village has the ability to check them one by one. They can only clean up one if one is exposed, and strengthen defense to try not to give spies a chance to act. Therefore, most of the spies are only engaged in intelligence transmission work, and rarely take direct action to prevent themselves from being exposed. This time, if Kiribee hadn't been caught, those Qimogakure spies lurking in Kirigakure would probably not have taken action at all. Hey, bastard who uses ice escape, when are you going to let me go back? Seeing that Qishuang didn't mean to pay attention to him, Kiribee on the side couldn't help but get a little anxious. Originally, he was a very active person. Now he was locked up here and couldn't go anywhere. It was really uncomfortable. What was even worse was that the group of guards beside him were like wooden sticks. They were completely unwilling to talk to him. As for the remaining shark-faced man, he looked very weak and didn't say anything. He was almost suffocated here. Qishuang rolled his eyes at him and said, I will let you go when the 4th Raikage comes to negotiate the ransom. I think he should be here soon. The 4th Raikage was a famous brother con. If Killer Bee was captured, he would definitely come to the Hidden Mist village to ask for him. According to common sense, with the 4th Raikage's hot temper, he would set out immediately after receiving the news that Killer Bee was captured. But now it has been a day and 2 nights and he hasn't come yet. It is estimated that he was tripped by something. Qishuang's guess was correct. Iwagakure and Konoha learned that the 8-Tails Killer Bee was captured, and they also guessed that the 4th Raikage would leave the village and come to the Hidden Mist village for negotiations. Therefore, the 2 families gathered a lot of troops, ready to take advantage of the 4th Raikage's absence from his post to raid Qimogakure. On one hand, there was the deep brotherly love. On the other hand, there was the safety of the village, and there was a disagreement among the top leaders. The 4th Raikage was dragged into the Qimogakure village and could not get away for the time being. Then, Qishuang looked Kiribee up and down again and teased, how much ransom should I ask your brother for? After all, you are the 8-Tails Jinchuriki of Qimogakure, a perfect Jinchuriki, and the sworn brother of the 4th Raikage. If you ask for too little, it would be too unworthy of your status, and it would be too contemptuous of your Qimogakure village. Hearing this, Kirigakure couldn't help but say to himself, this question is really a bit difficult. If you ask for more, my brother will definitely be distressed. If you ask for less, it will be too disrespectful to this master. Then, Qishuang gestured to the guards next to him. What do you want, sir? Several people responded in unison, understanding each other. Has any one of you been to the underground gold exchange? He asked a few people with a smile. Ninjas have extraordinary power. The major ninja villages they belong to are official military agencies of various countries. They are legal organizations on the surface and can complete various tasks for clients, including assassination, escort, etc. However, the official ninja villages will not accept all tasks, such as assassinating dignitaries of other countries. After all, if you can do it on the first day of the month, I can do it on the 15th. If everyone assassinates dignitaries of other countries frantically, it will lead to national chaos, intensified conflicts, and cause war. It's okay in wartime, but in peacetime, no ninja village is willing to take on such a task. However, for various reasons, there are always people who will issue such commissions that are officially prohibited, hoping to use the power of ninjas to satisfy their personal desires. Even the major ninja villages will privately go to the underground gold exchange to issue taboo commissions. After all, some things cannot be put on the table. Where there is demand, there will be a market. Under the influence of the indulgence of the major ninja villages and the abnormal environment, illegal organizations such as the underground gold exchange emerged, building a black trading platform to provide convenience for employers and ninjas. People like Kirigakure would definitely appear on the must-kill list of Kirigakure in wartime, but now it is a peaceful time. Kirigakure does not want to go to war with Qimogakure, so naturally it will not include him in the list. However, he must be on the bounty list of the underground gold exchange. Hearing what Qishuang said, several guards looked at each other. They didn't know why the adult asked this. After all, the black underground task market is not a good place, and they would not admit it casually, even if they had been there. Don't worry, I won't ask you what you are going to do. I just want to ask, how much is this guy worth in the underground gold exchange? Qishuang pointed at Kirigakure and asked. With the approximate price, he knew how much ransom he should ask for. Unfortunately, several people remained silent. After a long time, the playful laughter of Qishuang suddenly came from the ground. This guy's head is worth 300 million taels. The head of Jilu is worth 30 million. Kirigakure is a Jinkriki, and a perfect Jinkriki. His significance to Qimogakure is self-evident. He is also the sworn brother of the Raikage. It should be no problem to increase the price tenfold. Chapter 525 Prisoners, Part 2. Qishuang was born in the Kirigakure Anbu, and he was exposed to the darkest and dirtiest side of the world. He had been to places like the underground money exchange no less than 100 times. Kirigakure of the Hidden Cloud Village was one of the people with the highest bounty on the underground money exchange bounty list. Therefore, he was very impressed. 300 million. Nana Frost and Kirigakure were both shocked. In addition to carrying out the tasks entrusted by the village, Nana Frost spent most of his time on training, so he had never been to the underground money exchange. As for Kirigakure, because of his status as a Jinkriki, he was restricted in the village and had few opportunities to go out. In addition, he was closely watched by his sworn brother, so he had never been to the underground money exchange either. The 300 million bounty really shocked them. You know, due to various restrictions, the commissions accepted by the major ninja villages will not be too high. Even commissions with rewards exceeding 10 million are very rare. Most of the commissions with high bounties are taboo commissions. Therefore, there are rarely commissions with rewards of over 100 million on the regular task lists of the major ninja villages. Today was the first time they heard of a bounty of over 100 million. My life is actually worth so much money? Even I want to sell myself. Kirigakure couldn't help but sigh. That's a full 300 million. Because he likes singing, he often holds concerts in the village, but the money he makes each time is not much. I'm afraid that these 300 million are not enough to hold 10,000 concerts. Qishuang looked at Kirby carefully again and said meaningfully, this dead person is worth 300 million, so the living person must be worth at least 500 million, right? Hashiga Kikisame leaned on the frozen bronze tripod, looked at his fellow sufferers next to him, and said nonchalantly, in my opinion, even if it's 1 billion, it's no problem. However, I heard that this rakeage has a very bad temper. How much ransom you can get depends on your ability. After that, he looked at Qishuang jokingly. Don't worry about that, he will definitely take it out willingly. Qishuang bent down and gently brushed Hashiga Kikisame's shoulder, completely removing the ice from his broken arm. That was the ice he had deliberately kept to prevent the other party's injury from worsening. Then, Qishuang's eyes fell on the two broken arms that were frozen together with the bronze tripod, and he ordered the guards next to him, go find a few medical ninjas to help reconnect his broken arms. After that, he pressed his palm on the outside of the ice layer, and secretly injected chakra into the ice layer, controlling the changes in the ice layer, and pulled out the two broken arms together with the surrounding ice blocks into ice pillars. Remove. With a light shout, the ice pillar shattered, and the two bloody arms were caught in Qishuang's palms. Hearing this, a guard said indignantly, Sir, Hashiga Kikisame is the criminal of the flooding mist village. Why are you so kind to him, and even reattach his broken arm? The war was settled, and those guys who caused chaos in the mist village received the punishment they deserved. After all, someone has to take responsibility for the destruction of the mist village. Hazumi Masamune has been sentenced to death, and Hashiga Kikiichi has been removed from the position of the young patriarch of the Hashigaki clan. He is now in prison with no chance of being released. Originally, the higher-ups were going to execute Hashiga Kikisame, but because Sir Nanashiro had ordered earlier that no one should touch him, he was left until now. I have my reasons for doing this. Just do as I say. Nanashiro did not explain too much, but just placed the two broken arms on the ice of the bronze tripod, and used ice escape to fill the hole that had just been drawn out. Hashiga Kikisame looked at him deeply and sneered, do you think that you can make me submit to you by using this method of showing kindness? You underestimate me too much. Qishuang replied coldly, you think too much. I just don't want you to become a useless person. I'm not interested in useless people. There is no point in keeping a disabled Hashiga Kikisame, which is why he deliberately preserved his two broken arms with ice. He planned to heal his injuries from the beginning. Is it really just like that? The sarcasm on Hashiga Kikisame's face was not concealed. Several guards were already indignant, and after seeing him like this, they were even more furious. Hashiga Kikisame, you asshole. Unfortunately, they were stopped by Qishuang before they finished speaking. Forget it, don't bother with him. You should quickly find someone to help him connect his broken arm. After giving another reminder, Qishuang turned and left. Qishuang walked along the path that had been cleared by the talented people to the outside of the residence of the leader of the Gidon clan. White silk was hung on the huge Gidon plaque, and many guards were also wearing white corsages. Meetings, Master Qishuang. Seeing him coming, the guards saluted in unison. I want to see Gidon Manayu, please help me inform him. Qishuang said to everyone expressionlessly. Please wait. One of the guards walked through the gate and hurried inside to report the news. Not long after, he was seen rushing back again. Master, please come in. Then, under his leadership, Qishuang walked in slowly. Passing through the dilapidated corridors and houses, the two came to the backyard. The courtyard was swept clean, but the broken rockery and various broken potted plants all showed that this place had suffered fierce baptism of war. There were a few people in the center of the yard, one of whom was a white-haired young man sitting in a wheelchair and waving to Qishuang. That was Gidon Manayu. After just 2 days of not seeing him, his face had become much more haggard, looking like he had aged 20 years, and was increasingly weak. I thought you had forgotten me. He joked to Qishuang with a smile. Sorry, I was so tired when I came back that day. I didn't have time to take care of you. Qishuang spread his hands helplessly. He dared to say that that day was the most tiring day of his life. Even on the battlefield that year, he had never been so tired. After the people were brought in, the guards quietly withdrew. By the way, Lord Mizukage asked me to bring a mission commission to your Gui Deng family. I hope you can send someone to execute it as soon as possible. Thinking of Ming's instructions, Qishuang took out a scroll from his pocket and handed it over. Mission? Gui Deng Manayu took the mission scroll suspiciously, wailing. After a quick glance, he immediately understood the core of the mission. However, what he didn't understand was why Lord Mizukage deliberately sent ninjas to hunt whales. This was obviously a bit of an exaggeration. Whales are huge in size, so although it is not easy to hunt, ordinary fishermen can also catch them, and there is no need to deliberately send ninjas. Wait, huge? When he mentioned the huge size of the whale, he suddenly understood something. You can come up with such an idea? He smiled and joked to Qishuang. Manu of Kizuna is in charge of the entire Kizuna affiliated forces. Naturally, he is very clear about his own food reserves and supplies, and he also knows the dilemma of the hidden mist village that is about to run out of food. If they can hunt a whale back, it will probably be enough for the whole village to eat for a long time. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.